Chapter 1526. The moment Lu Ping achieved the true spirit, the pure Yang Dharma idol and Lu Ping's body fused together and transformed into a 30-meter-long true dragon. From then on, the true dragon was Lu Ping, and Lu Ping was the true dragon. There was no distinction between them. At this moment, everything that Lu Ping was familiar with was changing. This world was like a fish tank in his eyes, making Lu Ping feel extremely stuffy. He wanted to break through the shackles of this world and roam the starry sky. An inexplicable attractive force came from the distant North Sea. It seemed to subconsciously tell Lu Ping that he could only find a way to break through this world from there. Roar! The purple gold dragon rushed out from the Seven Stars Grotto Heaven on top of Heavenly Spirit Mountain, rolling up and down in the sea of clouds. The Jinling sect cultivators on Heavenly Spirit Island could only see a small part of the true spirit dragon's claws in the clouds. As the saying goes, the head of a divine dragon can only be seen, but not its tail. Just this small part of the dragon's claws was enough to make the entire Jinling sect dizzy. True spirit! The true spirit of the flood dragon. No, could this be the true spirit of the true dragon that Taiping Laozu mentioned? Although the Jinling cultivators on Tianling Island could not see the full appearance of the true spirit dragon that Lu Ping had transformed into, the power that the true spirit dragon emitted was enough to make the cultivators on Jinling cheer. Jinling was the second true spirit cultivator to appear since its founding more than 15,000 years ago. After 6,000 years, Jinling finally had another true spirit cultivator. Jinling was at its most powerful moment since its founding. With Lu Ping achieving the true spirit and the protection of the Seven-Star Grotto Heaven, Jinling's strength would continue to grow. It was only a matter of time before it became the seventh sacred land of the cultivation world after Skyren. Skyren had also been in a period of expansion for the past few hundred years. Now, it had become a huge sect that spanned across the southeastern sea of the East China Sea and a part of the Middle Earth. Other than Xiao Baiyu, who was a true spirit adept, and eighth sister Zhu, who was a veteran pure Yang adept, 100 years ago, there was another late Dharma adept who had survived the third Thunder trial with the help of Xiao Baiyu. 20 years ago, Liang Jianfei had also become a pure Yang adept. In this way, Skyren now had a true spirit adept and 3 pure Yang adepts in charge of the sect. It was already a real Holy Land sect. After achieving the true dragon body, Lu Ping's physical body and pure Yang Dharma merged into one. In an instant, he felt as if he no longer belonged to this world. It was as if he could shatter this world with just a wave of his hand. The world that he was so familiar with suddenly became very foreign to him. Everything in this world was rejecting Lu Ping's existence. And in this world, there seemed to be a great force constantly monitoring Lu Ping, as if he was a thug. Once Lu Ping showed the slightest sign of exceeding the boundary of this world, the great force that was originally just monitoring him would immediately fall on him. Lu Ping's eyes lit up. But he didn't know what to do. Lu Ping knew that this force might be the origin energy of this world. Once he used the true spirit energy and broke the rules of this world, this origin energy would turn into heaven's punishment, and would not stop until he died. Unless Lu Ping had the means of the Longhua ancestor, he could actually avoid the punishment of heaven's punishment. Therefore, Lu Ping had to walk carefully in this world. He was like a stranger in a foreign land, unable to find the door to leave in the narrow guest room of the host's house. He could only carefully avoid everything that he might accidentally break, so as to avoid being punished by the host. The natal magic power that Lu Ping had condensed was changing. The moment Lu Ping's true dragon body took shape, a total of 81 purple gold dragon scales covered his entire body, excluding the reverse scale under his chin. These 81 dragon scales formed 9 rows and 9 rings around the body of the true dragon. Each scale was engraved with a formation, and this formation was one of the 9 foundation formations recorded in the reverse scale. Each of the 9 dragon scales on each ring had the same fundamental formation inscribed on it, but each dragon scale on each row had a different fundamental formation inscribed on it. Among them, the row of 9 dragon scales on his abdomen, including the reverse scale under his chin, shone the brightest. This row of dragon scales was Lu Ping's most fundamental natal dragon scales. They were condensed after Lu Ping became a true dragon spirit with a water attribute cultivation method. Aside from the reverse scale, every time Lu Ping condensed the supreme water attribute natal dragon technique, he would inscribe a seed talisman on one of the 9 dragon scales. This would be used to command the foundation formation engraved on the dragon scales. In other words, after Lu Ping condensed the water dragon spirit, he could now condense 9 natal dragon techniques. After Lu Ping entered the true spirit realm, his cultivation base would increase. Once he condensed the second origin essence and successfully entered the second true spirit realm, he would once again infuse the 9 dragon scale spirit seeds into the 9 innate supreme skills. This would continue until Lu Ping successfully pushed his cultivation base to the 9th true spirit realm. At that point, he would be able to infuse the 81 dragon scale spirit seeds into the 81 innate supreme skills and reach the threshold of the godly spirit realm. But now, among the 9 dragon scales under Lu Ping's abdomen, only 7 had condensed innate supreme skill seeds. The 5 innate water innate supreme skills were 100 Rivers into the Sea Sword Technique, Sky Opening 3 Swords Technique, Great River Flowing East Sword Technique, Boiling Sky Sword Technique, Heavenly Gate Sword Technique, Thunderclap Sword Technique, and Azure Sea Mulberry Field Sword Technique. Among them, the Heaven Gate Sword art was something that Lu Ping had personally used on the Khoi clan in the past to exchange for the Great River East Sword art. As Lu Ping's cultivation base deepened, his knowledge of most of the cultivation world skills and spells also deepened. However, he also gained a deeper understanding of the Khoi clan's supreme sword skill, Heavenly Gate Sword skill. At the same time, he felt that this natal dragon technique had endless uses. In Lu Ping's eyes, this natal dragon technique was a natal dragon technique that the Khoi clan inherited from Jiao Daoren in the past. It was a natal dragon technique that was not weaker than the Splitting the Heavens technique. The Thunderclap sword art was originally just a natal dragon technique, and it was related to the Thunder technique natal dragon technique. After the cultivation world joined forces to exterminate the Yuan clan, Lu Ping also looted many of the Yuan clan's natal dragon techniques natal dragon technique, which was very beneficial to perfecting the Thunderclap sword art. In the past hundreds of years, Lu Ping cultivated in seclusion while perfecting these natal dragon technique systems. Finally, he deduced this natal dragon technique to the level of a natal dragon technique. Initially, Lu Ping wanted to engrave the Shapeless Sword spell's divine seed into the 8th dragon scale. However, although the Shapeless Sword spell was a sword technique not weaker than a peerless technique, half of its power had to come from an invisible flying sword. At the same time, it also required the cultivator's protective aura to be refined from a rare natural treasure. Therefore, after some hesitation, Lu Ping decided not to engrave the Shapeless Sword spell's divine seed into the 8th dragon scale for the time being. Usually, before a cultivator condensed a true spirit, being able to condense 3 natal dragon techniques was already a top-notch existence. These people were originally very few. In addition to these 3 supreme divine abilities, it wasn't impossible to cultivate 1 or 2 more supreme divine abilities, but it required a cultivator to have an extraordinary amount of true essence. Regardless of whether it was condensing, nurturing, or using it in battle, the amount of true essence consumed was usually several times that of cultivating a natal supreme divine ability. Therefore, after achieving pure yang, it was not that some powerful cultivators didn't think of continuing to condense 1 or 2 natal dragon techniques as backup after achieving true spirit, but it was really beyond their ability. Only an existence like Lu Ping, who was beyond ordinary people, would have enough true essence to waste on condensing many natal dragon technique talismans. When Lu Ping achieved true spirit, this strong accumulation brought twice the result with half the effort for Lu Ping. In one fell swoop, he condensed 7 natal dragon technique seeds, and relying on his previous strong foundation, the moment Lu Ping achieved true spirit, he pushed his cultivation to the late stage of the first realm. In addition to the great changes in natal dragon techniques and cultivation, the spiritual treasures that Lu Ping nurtured were also changing. Every time Lu Ping's 6 natal dragon techniques and Sword of True Spirit formed one, the quality and power of the Sword of True Spirit would also improve. Similarly, the spiritual treasure was also improving along with the growth of Lu Ping's strength. Unfortunately, this pair of scissors was not Lu Ping's natal dragon treasure, so its speed of improvement was obviously not comparable to the Sword of True Spirit, Emoli. There was also a change in the 7 treasure Thunder Calabash. Unlike Yuan Jinglei and the remaining Yuan family descendants, after obtaining the Thunder Origin, Lu Ping did not directly refine it to improve his cultivation, but had been nurturing it in the Thunder Calabash. After that, the quality of the Thunder Calabash in Lu Ping's hands was greatly improved, and now its power was no weaker than ordinary spiritual treasures. After Lu Ping condensed his true soul, a trace of the original water essence was absorbed into the Thunder Gourd. This time, the original Thunder essence that hadn't changed in the slightest was revealed to have increased a little. And Lu Ping could also clearly feel that after obtaining the drop of Thunder Origin essence that Lu Ping condensed, the Eden Water Divine Thunder released by the 7 treasure Thunder Calabash had been upgraded to the level of a Supreme Dragon technique in one fell swoop. However, the other lightning techniques such as the Gung Metal Divine Thunder and Wu Earth Divine Thunder did not improve at all. They were still at the level of a Supreme Dragon technique, but this clearly pointed out a way for Lu Ping to continue improving the 7 treasure Thunder Calabash's quality. However, among these spiritual treasures, the most obvious change was still Lu Ping's 13 natal gentian spiritual treasures. After being nurtured by the True Spirit's origin essence, these 13 natal spiritual treasures had reached the limit of a first tribulation spiritual treasure, and were about to welcome the second lightning tribulation. As Lu Ping's most authentic natal gentian spiritual treasures, the 13 natal gentian spiritual treasures had been nurtured since Lu Ping was still a blood condensation cultivator. Now that they had survived the second lightning tribulation, they would fuse with the Thunder Origin essence that Lu Ping had obtained after condensing his true spirit. If Lu Ping was not surprised, the space formed by the natal gentian formation after condensing his true spirit would definitely be a boundless underwater world. This vast ocean was formed by the triple light sacred water in the suspended sea in Lu Ping's core space before he condensed his true spirit. Chapter 1527. As the purple gold true spirit dragon flew up and down in the sea of clouds above Heaven's Spirit Island, all the areas within a 5,000-kilometer radius that were covered by the clouds condensed into raindrops the moment the true spirit dragon appeared. The clouds were the thinnest outside the 5,000-kilometer radius, so the rain was naturally weak. However, as the area shrunk, the rain gradually became stronger. Within the 3,000-kilometer radius, as the clouds became thicker, the rain also became finer. In the sky above Heaven's Spirit Island, which was 1,000 kilometers away from Heaven's Spirit Mountain, the originally thick white clouds had turned into thick, dark clouds for some reason. Heavy rain poured down from the sky. The true spirit cultivators who were celebrating Lu Ping condensing their true spirit all raised colorful protective auras around them to prevent the rain from soaking their clothes. When they were only 500 kilometers away from Heaven's Spirit Mountain, the rain turned into a rainstorm. Not only that, after Lu Ping condensed his true spirit, the remaining spiritual chi that had gathered at the top of Heaven's Spirit Mountain fused into the clouds and fell as raindrops within 500 kilometers of Heaven's Spirit Mountain. The island, which was originally nourished by the large spirit vein on Heaven's Spirit Mountain, was now nourished by the rain filled with spiritual chi. The various spirit herb gardens and spirit herb farms on the island benefited the most. The density of Heaven's Spirit Island also reached an unprecedented level due to the spiritual rain, benefiting the entire Zhenling sect. At the foot of Heaven's Spirit Mountain, Jiang Tianlin and the others, who had descended from the top of Heaven's Spirit Mountain due to the heavenly might caused by Lu Ping condensing his true spirit, could clearly feel that the tyrannical pressure on them had begun to subside. It was clear that Lu Ping had begun to control the aura around him. The process of condensing his true spirit realm had perfectly completed. Everyone looked at each other helplessly and smiled. Then, they flew towards the top of the mountain in streaks of light. The news that the North Sea Water Sword immortal Taiping Laozu had condensed his true spirit spread throughout the entire cultivation world in an instant. Various sects, major and minor repairs cultivators all sent envoys to congratulate the North Sea Water Sword immortal for condensing his true spirit realm and taking one step closer to immortality. Not only human cultivators, but many demon tribes also sent high-grade demon cultivators to the North Sea to congratulate Lu Ping. This was especially so because many demon cultivators had voluntarily followed Lu Ping for hundreds of years. As a result, Lu Ping's reputation among the demon cultivators was very high. Whether it was in the East Sea or the Central Plains, Jinling's unbridled expansion over the years had affected the interests of many sections. Originally, there had been many conflicts between Jinling and the various sections. However, after the news that Lu Ping had condensed his true spirit realm spread, the borders of Jinling's sphere of influence instantly calmed down. There were no more news of conflicts. Even if there were disputes between the two sides, the other side would take the initiative to make peace. Every 100 years, the huge spiritual stone vein in the fallen secret land would be redistributed. Over the years, the share of the Crystal Palace had been decreasing, while the share of Skyrend and Jinling had been gradually increasing. However, the speed of Skyrend's growth was obviously slower than that of Jinling. The reason was that Skyrend had a true spirit cultivator. After the news that Lu Ping had condensed his true spirit came, Ji Tianxian, who had just passed the second Thunder Tribulation and became the fourth great cultivator among the 3 generations of Jinling, forcibly vetoed the distribution plan of spiritual stones that had been discussed with the overseas sects despite the opposition of the other sects in the Phantom Palace. Then, he began to reformulate the distribution plan. Soon after, the detailed news of Patriarch Taiping becoming a celestial being quickly spread from the North Sea to the illusionary Spirit Palace and the various sects in the seas. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The celestial phenomenon that covered a radius of 5,000 kilometers and the pressure of a celestial being that seeped into one's bones was something that no one present had ever heard of. It seemed that only when the 7 heaven-splitting patriarchs were around did the heaven-splitting patriarchs unleash such a powerful pressure with a wave of their hands. Even the old ancestor Long Huai in the fallen star secret grounds had suffered a total of 27 bolts of tribulation lightning after breaking through the sky wall of myriad poisons. Even though it had caused a huge commotion, it hadn't been as grand as Lu Ping's breakthrough into the true spirit realm. The ascension of cultivation and the appearance of celestial phenomenon were originally a symbol of a cultivator's strength. Under normal circumstances, the more powerful the celestial phenomenon, the more powerful the strength. Before Lu Ping had condensed his true spirit realm, he had been able to force the true spirit realm cultivators to be punished by the heavens, forcing them to hide in the great array of the North Ice Field and die. Now that he had condensed his true spirit, what kind of level would he reach? What's more, after this person condensed his true spirit, he still had a year to travel around the world. At this time, he could flatten anyone that was in his way, and there was no place for him to reason with. A new plan was quickly formed. Because Skyrend's focus had been moving westward in the central mainland these years, he was more or less rejected by the overseas sections. His share was the same as that of the Crystal Palace, but now it was slightly reduced. The Crystal Palace occupied 30%, while Jinling and Skyrend occupied 25%. At the same time, in the distribution plan of the giant spirit stone vein of Shang Mountain, also affected by Lu Ping's condensing, Laozu of Tianshan represented Jinling to increase the distribution of the spirit stones. In the large spirit stone vein of Bao Island outside the border of the Heavenly Profound Sect and the Heavenly Moon Sect, Jinling and Skyrend had jointly occupied 60% of it. The Heavenly Profound Sect and the Heavenly Moon Sect shared 30% equally, and the remaining 10% belonged to the Carefree Pavilion of the East Sea. As for the spirit stone vein of the North Sea's Frost Island, Jinling alone occupied 75% of it, and the remaining 25% belonged to the other sects and families of the North Sea. It could be said that Lu Ping's condensing of a true spirit caused the entire Jinling to undergo an earth-shattering change. However, when Lu Ping became a true spirit, he did not use the true spirit inheritance of the 9-dragon bell to search for a shortcut or secret technique. Instead, he completely relied on his own accumulated strength to break through the last barrier and condense into a true spirit dragon. However, because of this, Lu Ping needed a large amount of cultivation resources to support his own consumption during the process of breaking through. Also, compared to ordinary cultivators who had condensed into a true spirit, Lu Ping's foundation was more solid, but the bottleneck he needed to break through would be more difficult, and the cultivation resources he needed would also be greater. In the hundreds of years that Lu Ping had been cultivating in seclusion, Junling had almost used up a third of the resources that Junling had plundered after becoming a large sect. This was also one of the reasons why Junling had been continuously expanding in the past few years. It was to find more ways to obtain more cultivation resources. At this time, the news of Lu Ping's success came, so the cultivators of Junling who were plundering everywhere were naturally more confident, and their methods became more and more forceful. After condensing into a true spirit, Lu Ping used the only year he had left to begin what could be said to be his last journey in this world. At the same time, it was also to declare Junling's strength to the entire cultivation world, and this journey was destined to be extremely short. The moment he condensed into a true spirit, Lu Ping's true spirit body was rejected by this world, but at the same time, he could obtain many secrets from this world that he had never heard of before, and these things could only be known by true spirit cultivators. For example, how many true spirit cultivators were hidden in this world? Although most of these people were hiding in a small world that could avoid the detection of this world, they were still taking advantage of the loopholes of this world. Although they could avoid the rejection of this world, they could not avoid people who also planned to take advantage of these loopholes. After Lu Ping left the North Sea, his first choice was to go to the East Sea. At this time, in Lu Ping's perception, there were 5 true spirit cultivators gathered in the East Sea. The one in the Crystal Palace should be Lao Tzu without a doubt, and the one in the southeast and south must be Xiao Baiyu. But in the fallen secret plane, there were 3 true spirit cultivators gathered, which was what truly surprised Lu Ping. Other than Longhuai ancestor, the other one should be the 7 fans Lao Tzu, who could no longer stop his cultivation from increasing. Then who was the remaining true spirit cultivator? However, from Lu Ping's point of view, this third true spirit cultivator should be the same as the 7 fans Lao Tzu, also a true spirit cultivator who came to the East Sea to seek protection from the Longhuai ancestor. It was just that he did not know if this person was familiar with Lu Ping. Lu Ping also came to the East Sea this time to visit the Longhuai ancestor. He still had many questions that he needed to ask this existence that Lu Ping felt was more and more confusing. After Lu Ping became a true spirit cultivator, Junling began to build a new array system in the East Sea's Jingzhi Island, the Hebei Cultivation World Xingshan Courtyard, the Northern Sea's Heavenly Spirit Island, the Frost Island, Huangli Island, and the Scarlet Mist Island. Moreover, Junling seemed to be in a rush to build this array system. He didn't even hesitate to dismantle the original protective array in order to build this array system. Lu Ping stayed in the Eastern Sea for more than a month. During this period, he spent the longest time in the Eastern Sea where he had a secret conversation with old ancestor Long Huai. It was only then that he learned that the true spirit cultivator seeking protection from the firmament poison wall was actually a true spirit cultivator from the Emerald Sea Spirit Snake clan. Not only that, but he was also Lu Ping's good friend Chu Haixiao's grandfather, the former clan leader of the Emerald Sea Spirit Snake clan, Chu Fanyan. After coming out of the secret graveyard, Lu Ping secretly infiltrated the Fire Phoenix clan. In the past, when the Scarlet Mist Island changed, Yan Zhuxia had fallen in Lu Ping's hands, but the Fire Phoenix clan had obtained one of the 7 life source feathers left by the Luan Taoist and brought it back to the East Sea. Previously, there was a pure Yang cultivator in the Fire Phoenix clan, and Lu Ping had personally witnessed the power of Taoist Luan's heaven-opening technique, sealed in the feather. Before he ascended to the true spirit realm, Lu Ping wasn't confident that he could escape with his life. Now that Lu Ping had successfully condensed his true spirit, and the Fire Phoenix clan's only pure Yang cultivator had died, the Fire Phoenix clan could be said to have no successor after Yan Zhuoxiao. Although there were still several cultivators maintaining the Fire Phoenix clan's status as a large monster race tribe, they were not in Lu Ping's eyes at all. Following the unique aura of the heaven opening technique sealed in the life source feather, Lu Ping quickly found where the Fire Phoenix clan hid this treasure. However, when he saw the person guarding this treasure, Lu Ping was very surprised, but he still quickly bowed and said, "Junior Lu Ping greets Senior Yan." At this time, the person holding the treasure of the Fire Phoenix clan was the one who had taught Lu Ping in the past, Yan Wujiu, the #1 alchemy grandmaster of the East Sea. Chapter 1528. Yan Wujiu, who was now at the peak of the mid-Dharma stage, had white hair and was extremely old. It was obvious that he was nearing the end of his lifespan. As the best grandmaster alchemist in this world, Lu Ping could sense the aura of several high-grade longevity pellets from Yan Wujiu's body. Clearly, Yan Wujiu had reached a stage where he could extend his lifespan through longevity pellets. "You've come! It's been a few hundred years. The old man wishes to congratulate you on becoming a true spirit cultivator. From now on, your path to immortality is one step closer." Yan Wujiu did not seem surprised by Lu Ping's arrival. With a flip of his hand, a rainbow light flashed, and a feather appeared in his hand. If it wasn't the light feather that Lu Ping was looking for, what else could it be? Yan Wujiu chuckled and looked at Lu Ping, who was secretly on guard because of the feather. He smiled and said, "You came for this treasure?" Even though Lu Ping was now a top existence in this world, he still felt a little embarrassed by his previous actions. But he quickly adjusted himself and said, "That's right." As soon as Lu Ping finished speaking, he saw Yan Wujiu throw the feather in his hand. The feather floated into Lu Ping's hand. Looking at the feather in his hand and feeling the art of splitting the heavens sealed inside, Lu Ping had thought of many ways to obtain this feather. This included stealing it, threatening it, seducing it, and even killing it until it formed a river of blood. It wasn't that he hadn't thought that such an important treasure, an item that could be used to fight against a true spirit cultivator, would be so easily thrown into Lu Ping's hand by Yan Wujiu. Yan Wujiu seemed to understand what Lu Ping was thinking and explained with a smile. "This is the will of the old man before he died. He wanted the old man to give this feather to you when you come to the Fire Phoenix clan. This was the wish of the old man. He hoped that this would be able to wipe out the grudge between Jinling and the Fire Phoenix clan. After all, the Fire Phoenix clan suffered greatly in the conflict with your clan." A rainbow feather sealed with the art of splitting the heavens in exchange for a promise from Lu Ping. It seemed that the Fire Phoenix clan had suffered greatly. But Lu Ping knew that this was the wisest choice for the Fire Phoenix clan. If the Fire Phoenix clan chose to fight against Jinling, then Lu Ping's goal in coming today would not only be to retrieve the feather, but also to destroy the Fire Phoenix clan. If there was anyone in this world who understood the power of the sealed life origin ability of the Luan Taoist the most, then it would naturally be Lu Ping. In this kind of situation, Lu Ping still dared to go to the Fire Phoenix clan. Naturally, he was confident in his own strength and didn't fear the power of the life origin feather. After putting away the life origin feather, Lu Ping said seriously, "Does Senior have any other requests? I see that Senior doesn't have much time left in your life. Do you need this Junior to help you pass the second lightning tribulation? Right now, this Junior has mastered a few secret techniques and abilities. I don't dare to say that there are many, but I can increase the chances of passing the lightning tribulation by 10 to 20%. Yan Wujiu chuckled and shook his head as if he had already seen through this and was certain that he would not be able to pass the second lightning tribulation. Lu Ping thought for a moment and said, "These past few years, this Junior has collected many treasures. Many of them can be used to refine superior longevity pills. Perhaps there are some that you have not used before. Perhaps they can help to extend your life." Yan Wujiu shook his head and smiled. The old man knows his own situation. To be able to advance to the mid-Dharma stage is already not easy. There is no need to waste elixirs to extend your life. However, the old man does have a request that I hope that Lu Daoyu will agree to. However, this suggestion, whether it is for Jinling or the Fire Phoenix clan, will have many benefits and no harm. Oh? Lu Ping replied with a hint of interest on his face. He said, I'd like to hear the details. Yan Wujiu said, Little Qiner, the old man once helped Little Qiner obtain the inheritance of the Fire Phoenix clan. Although her bloodline is not pure Fire Phoenix clan, her cultivation, talent, and strength are rare in the Fire Phoenix clan. If you and I join forces and push Little Qiner to become the leader of the Fire Phoenix clan, what do you think? This suggestion was really out of Lu Ping's expectations. Looking at Lu Ping's shocked expression, Yan Wujiu patiently explained. The current Fire Phoenix clan is in chaos after the death of the head elder. Although there are 3 or 4 great practitioners, they all have their own selfish desires. Everyone wants to be the leader, but they also keep each other in check. The Fire Phoenix clan is already in chaos because of them. Although the old man is powerless to stop them, the old man still has some reputation in the clan. If I can join forces with you to push Little Qiner, I believe that we can quickly stop the chaos of the Fire Phoenix clan. Truth be told, when Lu Ping heard this suggestion, he was a little surprised at first. However, after thinking about it carefully, he realized that this was indeed feasible. Furthermore, this was not without its benefits for Jinling. At least in the East Sea, he would be able to obtain the strong support of a large demon clan. This would greatly increase the influence of Jinling in the cultivation world of the East Sea. Lu Ping thought for a moment and said, Senior, when do you plan to act? After leaving the East Sea, Lu Ping went to the South Sea and the endless mountain range. And compared with the two of them, although Lu Ping achieved the true spirit much later, he had accumulated enough. After achieving the true spirit, he stepped into the late stage of the first realm in one fell swoop and condensed 7 supreme magical power seeds. Even when Longhua ancestors saw Lu Ping in the East Sea, he could not hide the shock on his face. There was no doubt that compared with Xiang Laozu, Lu Ping's starting point was much higher, not to mention that the origin of the 5 elements bread in the 5 elements tortoise had been absorbed by the Samling 5 elements leaf in Lu Ping's hand. Even compared with Longhua ancestor, although Lu Ping did not reach perfection of the first realm in one fell swoop, the time of cultivation was many times shorter than Longhua ancestor. Leaving the South Sea and coming to the Endless Mountains, Lu Ping first visited the Peacock royalty. The Peacock royalty also had their own mini-kiliocosm, but compared with the human race's Holy Land sects, they did not have an uninterrupted true spirit inheritance. It was impossible to guarantee that there would be a true spirit cultivator inheritance in every generation. Despite this, the Peacock royalty was much higher than the Green Sea Snakes, but the Green Sea Snakes did not even have their own mini-kiliocosm. However, Lu Ping got news from Samling that although the true spirit cultivators that appeared in the Green Sea Snakes could not stay in this world for long, Jiao Daoren had left the 3 layers of skin pouches that he shed from his true spirit body to the Green Sea Snakes as the clan's treasure. With these 3 skin pouches, the pure yang cultivators of the Green Sea Snakes could wear the skin pouches on their bodies at any time and transform into an existence equivalent to a true spirit cultivator. Lu Ping originally wanted to visit the insect clan. This clan was the descendant of Daoist Chan, but they always hid in the Endless Mountains and rarely appeared in the cultivation world. However, Lu Ping could sense that there was also a true spirit cultivator hidden in the insect clan. However, after the Peacock King's younger brother Yang Shouchang knew about Lu Ping's plan, he told Lu Ping that it was best not to go. The insect clan was conservative and exclusive. Even the Peacock royalty had not met the beastkin of the insect clan more than a few times. On the contrary, there were countless unintentional conflicts, mostly caused by other beastkin of the Endless Mountains inadvertently stepping into the territory of the insect clan. Although Lu Ping had regrets in his heart, he had no choice but to give up this plan. After leaving the Endless Mountains, he entered the Central Plains and visited the Skyward Pavilion and the Lingyun Valley, the 2 holy lands that guarded the Central Plains' southern border. The 2 sects attached great importance to Lu Ping's visit. Although the true spirit cultivators of the two sects could not personally go out to greet him, they sent out the revered pure yang cultivators of their sects to greet him. Even the Lingyun Valley that had some enmity with Lu Ping had to let go of their previous enmity in front of Lu Ping's strength. Chapter 1529. One of the reasons why Lu Ping visited the cultivation world's sacred grounds and giant demon tribes was to further consolidate Zhenling's position in the cultivation world. At the same time, it was also to pave the way for Zhenling to advance in this world in the future. In particular, after Lu Ping followed everyone to the passage formation in the North Icelands, Zhenling would not be isolated after losing Lu Ping's protection. Lu Ping's visits continued. He visited Guangyu and Laozu from Wuxing School, Lujian Laozu from Xiang Palace, and even the great spiritual apes Marshal in the North Icelands. The Marshal was also a true spirit beast cultivator, but he sat under a towering stone peak. While Lu Ping was conversing with the wise great ape clan's general, his eyes were constantly scrutinizing the towering stone peak. He could sense that it was because of the stone peak's suppression that the general's aura was concealed, preventing him from being rejected by the world's origin. The mountain was clearly not a mini-kiliacosm, but it could protect a true spirit beast cultivator. However, the true spirit beast cultivator could only guard a corner of the stone peak. Compared to the vastness and ease of the mini-kiliacosm, being suppressed by a stone peak did not feel good. Seeing the inquisitive look in Lu Ping's eyes, the old ape asked with a smile, "Did you notice something, fellow?" Lu Ping pointed at the stone peak above the old ape's head and said hesitantly, "This stone peak is very peculiar." The old ape laughed heartily and said, "Everyone says how great the North Sea Water Sword Immortal is. Now that I've seen him, he really lives up to his reputation. It's true that hearing about him is not as good as meeting him in person, and meeting him in person is even better." Lu Ping smiled humbly. "Senior, you're overpraising me. If I'm not wrong, this stone peak should be a peerless item." "Peerless item?" The old ape agreed and nodded. "It is indeed a peerless item. Everyone knows that the seventh patriarch left behind 6 heaven-opening artifacts, but they don't know that the so-called 6 heaven-opening artifacts are just because the seventh patriarch happened to use them when he was splitting the heavens. That's why they are praised in the world. In fact, the 6 treasures themselves may not be things that the seventh patriarch was used to. For example, the ancestor of the great ape clan, Taoist Ape, the wine cauldron of heaven and earth was merely a wine cup that he forged because he liked the contents of the cup. It just so happened that it had the effect of regulating the spiritual veins in the mountains and rivers, and it happened to be used when he was splitting the heavens. That's why it's so famous, and the Wuxing school worshipped it like an ancestor. As a matter of fact, Taoist Ape's favorite weapon was transformed from a piece of godly metal. Back then, he used the godly metal to suppress Taoist whose cultivation base was similar to his, and ranked 3rd among the 7th patriarch. That's where his strength lies. As for the treasure cauldron of heaven and earth, it's just SOSO. Although the old ape had belittled the treasure cauldron of heaven and earth to the point that it was worthless, Lu Ping naturally would not take it seriously. Lu Ping had seen the treasure cauldron's original form with his own eyes, and he had also seen the Wuxing school's Earth's spiritual son suppress Xiao Baiyu and several other pure yang experts with the cauldron until they could not fight back. He had even fought one of the cauldron's artifact spirits, so he naturally knew that the majestic power of the artifact was not inferior to the 7-feathered fan, the 7-treasure thunder calabash, the purple sun flying sword, and other treasures. Moreover, Lu Ping could hear the strong jealousy in the old ape's tone. It was obvious that the great ape clan still held a grudge against the heaven-opening artifact that Taoist ape used. However, Lu Ping quickly understood the hidden meaning in the old ape's words. He looked at the stone peak in front of him in surprise and pointed at it. "Senior, do you mean that this is?" The old ape said proudly. "That's right. This stone peak was originally the great ape clan's treasure mountain. Although the great ape clan doesn't have the everlasting inheritance of true spirit cultivators like the sacred land of the Central Plains, there have been many true spirit cultivators since the world was opened. However, they never thought of staying for long and directly went to the passage formation to follow Taoist Ape's footsteps. This is not only the case for the Great Ape clan, but also for the Spirit Snake clan of the East Sea, the Peacock clan of the Endless Mountain, and the Tyrannical Turtle clan of the South Sea. It's not that we don't have the possibility of building a minor kiliacosm to ensure the inheritance of true spirit cultivators, but most of us don't want to do that. The path to immortality is extremely difficult, and staying for 300 to 500 years to protect the clan will not only delay the cultivation of true spirit cultivators, but the clan will also become lazy because of the protection of true spirit cultivators. Why did the 9 mystical tower perish? Why did you dare to attack the sacred land back then? Before Lu Ping could answer, the old ape continued. Is it because the 9 mystical tower happened to have a gap in the inheritance of true spirit cultivators? Lu Ping was stunned. Is there another reason? The old ape laughed and said, If the Great Ape clan didn't have me, do you think the so-called 10 pure sons would be enough to destroy my clan? Lu Ping did not know what the old ape meant. He originally wanted to say that they could destroy the clan, but the old ape was obviously confident that the Great Ape clan would not be destroyed in the face of the 9 mystical towers situation. However, Lu Ping was puzzled. He did not know where the old ape's confidence came from. Lu Ping pointed at the stone peak above the old ape's head and said, Are you talking about this treasure, senior? The old ape shook its head and said, You'll have to figure it out yourself. Once you figure it out, Jinling will naturally be the next sacred land. As for this stone peak above me, didn't the 9 mystical tower also have the 7 feather fan? Didn't you guys take it away in the end? The old ape sighed. Actually, the 6 sacred lands also know what the old man is talking about. However, you humans are too thoughtful and think too much. You can't let go of the inheritance of true spirit and think that you left a shortcut for your descendants, but in the end, the disadvantages outweigh the advantages. Originally, I didn't want to use this stone peak to suppress my aura. After I became a true spirit, I followed my ancestors to the passage formation. It's not a good feeling to have a mountain on my body, but now, it's no longer up to the old man. The old man thought that the Longhua ancestors' shocking words were nonsense, but the battle with the Yuan clan at the foot of Mount Shang made the old man feel cold from head to toe. In the end, he had no choice but to carry this stone peak on his back to prolong his life. After more than 200 years, the old man would like to see what kind of conspiracy was laid in the passage formation and why our ancestors created this world. The two's conversation became more or less serious. After a moment of silence, Lu Ping looked for an opportunity to ask the old ape. Senior, you said that this stone peak, which is Taoist Ape's spiritual treasure, is not inferior to the other heaven-opening artifacts. Does that mean that the other artifacts also have the ability to conceal aura? The old ape asked curiously. Why do you ask? Lu Ping pondered and said, I won't hide it from Senior. When this junior became a true spirit cultivator and traveled around the world, I discovered that there are so many true spirit cultivators hiding in this world. Thinking back to my previous arrogance, I realized that I was a frog at the bottom of a well. However, this junior also discovered that the auras of the true spirit cultivators hiding in the small kiliacosm are faintly discernible. They are truly hiding. The Holy Land sects, the Thousand Poison Sky Wall, and the Endless Mountains Peacock clan are all like this. However, Senior is different. Your aura is suppressed by this stone peak and seems to be imprisoned. The old ape did not seem to be surprised. He asked, Did you find anything similar to the old man? Lu Ping nodded. That's right. I also sensed the aura of a true spirit cultivator in the Endless Mountain, which should be the insect clan. It's a pity that I didn't pay them a visit in the end. However, I also sensed a similar aura in the West Wilderness. Could it be that there are weapons and spiritual treasures left behind by the 7th Patriarch in these 2 places? Oh? The old ape was slightly surprised. It's fine if it's the insect clan. They should also have the relics left behind by Taoist Chan. Moreover, they might not be very conservative. The spirit beast taming sect, which is elusive in the cultivation world, is closely related to the insect clan. However, how did the people in the West Wilderness manage to stay here? Chapter 1530. The spirit beast taming sect was related to the insect clan. Lu Ping found it hard to believe when he heard the news. Upon seeing Lu Ping's expression, the old ape said with a smile, "This happened a long time ago. Very few people in the cultivation world know about the secret between them. I'm afraid only forces with ancient legacies would know about it." Lu Ping nodded. After all, it was because they did not have enough resources. The Jinling sect had only risen for a few years. Even if they were to add in the fact that they were established, it was only around 10,000 years ago. Furthermore, they had been lingering around the small and medium-sized forces, so they naturally knew very little about the secrets of the cultivation world. Although the true spirit cultivator could sense each other, this kind of feeling was mostly built on the moment the cultivator advanced to the true spirit and activated the source of this world. After that, there would be no more connection between them, unless both sides were within a certain range. The old ape had definitely advanced to a true spirit before Lu Ping, so he could only be suppressed under the stone peak to avoid the world's rejection. Naturally, the information that Lu Ping obtained while he was traveling was not as accurate as the information that he obtained 100 years ago. A cultivator advanced to a true spirit in the West Land. The old man sensed that he should be a cultivator from the Tenma people. A few decades later, there was another true spirit cultivator's aura at the border between the West Land and the North Ice Field. He was undoubtedly the Great Ape Clan's old neighbor, the multicolored Tiger Clan's great elder. The old ape continued. Originally, I thought that unless the two of them went to the Sky Wall of Poison to seek the protection of ancestor Long Huai, otherwise, they would have no choice but to head towards the Grand Formation. I never expected that with the resources and reserves of the Heavenly Pegasus and multicolored Tiger Clans, they were actually able to preserve themselves. This has greatly exceeded my expectations. Back then, the Pegasus clan was ranked last among the West Land's three great demon clans, the green-eyed white-fronted Tiger Clan, and the Tenma people. However, in the past hundreds of years, an outstanding figure had emerged from the Pegasus clan, and that was the clan leader of the Pegasus clan, Ma Jin. Under the leadership of the clan leader of the Pegasus clan had cultivated a batch of outstanding disciples, which made the strength of the Pegasus clan continuously increase. After the white-fronted Tiger clan was defeated by the calamity of Mara, the Pegasus clan had surpassed the blue-eyed Golden Condor clan to become the #1 demon clan in the Western Wilderness. On the other hand, Lu Ping had many conflicts with the Pegasus. They were almost on par with the large goblin clans like the wise Great Ape Clan and Ba Gui Clan. Lu Ping could sense that the true spirit cultivators of the multicolored Tiger Clan were the same as the wise Great Ape Clan's old ape. They used treasures to suppress their bodies to avoid the rejection of the natural source of the world. Unfortunately, the multicolored Tiger Clan was obviously very wary of Lu Ping's arrival. The true spirit cultivators of the multicolored Tiger Clan had obviously discovered Lu Ping's arrival, but they had already sent their goblin cultivators to reject Lu Ping's entry. Even so, Lu Ping could still see that there were still quite a number of suspended-eyed white-fronted Tiger Clan's goblin cultivators within the multicolored Tiger Clan. However, as one of the three major Tiger Demon clans, they could only exist as a vassal of others. It was obvious that their current situation was not too good. Although Lu Ping had entered deep into the multicolored Tiger Clan's territory, he could see the deep conflict between the two clans from the periphery. Fights and such were common, and it was obvious that most of the time, it was the suspended-eyed white-fronted Tiger Clan's goblin cultivators who were at a disadvantage. In more than half a year, Lu Ping's footprints had almost covered the entire cultivation world. When he returned to the cultivation world of Hebei, the formations that he had started setting up after leaving the North Sea were already nearing completion under the leadership of Deng Tianming, who was now at the mid-Dharma stage. These formations were set up in several important places in the North Sea, as well as in Yingshan Villa, Jingzhi Island, and other places. They were the formations that Lu Ping had obtained from the Long Huai ancestor and the heavenly poisonous wall of poisons. Originally, Although these formations were valuable, they could not compare to the heavenly poisonous wall of poisons that Jiao Daoren had personally set up. However, what the Longhui ancestor did not know was that Lu Ping had the 9 foundational formations that Jiao Daoren had left behind. With Deng Tianming, a formation genius grandmaster, combining the two, these formations that were set up were at least 50% as good as the heavenly poisonous wall of poisons. Although they could not be like the former, which could even evade heavenly punishment, they could at least allow Lu Ping to have a few places to go out and relax for the next 200 years, other than guarding the 7-star cave heaven. A year later, Lu Ping returned to the North Sea to take charge of the 7-star cave heaven. Jinling also gradually stopped its continuous expansion in the Heartland and the East Sea. It began to reign in its power and consolidate its own foundation. However, with Lu Ping's retirement, the forces that Jinling had previously expanded, especially in the Hebei training world, were constantly viewed with hostility by the training world in the Heartland, both overtly and covertly, because of Jinling's identity as a North Sea sect. Gradually, disputes began to break out at the border areas, and the situation was getting more and more intense. However, by this time, Jinling had already gained a firm foothold. Jinling boldly sent out its 4th-generation disciples to participate in the disputes. In the continuous and strictly controlled conflicts, a group of Jinling's 4th-generation disciples stood out after undergoing training. In particular, Wan Tianqi and Du Tianluo, who were under Lu Ping's tutelage, were existences who could challenge those who were of a higher level than them when they were at the early Dharma stage. Very quickly, they became known as the direct disciples of Jinling's 4th generation in the training world. About 20 years later, there were sects in the Heartland who could no longer hold back. After a pure yang cultivator lured Tianchu away, another pure yang cultivator tried to destroy Angshan Villa. Unexpectedly, 20 years after Jinling's water sword deity Taiping Laozu entered the minor Kiliacosm, he suddenly appeared in the Hebei training world. The pure yang cultivator and 2 grand cultivators who participated in the sneak attack did not even cause a splash before they disappeared from the Hebei training world. If they were alive, they were not seen, and if they were dead, their corpses were not found. The training world, which had been peaceful for decades, was once again in an uproar. Lu Taiping actually left the minor Kiliacosm after becoming a true soul and roamed the world as he pleased. However, very quickly, there were people who discovered some clues. After that, the formation sects of the various sects came to the conclusion that the protective formation that protected Jinling's Angshan Villa was similar to the 1000-poison firmament wall. Not only that, from what was discovered in the East Sea and the North Sea, a few places that were important to Jinling had protective formations that were exactly the same as the protective formation at Angshan Villa. This meant that whenever Jinling was in danger at these important places, Jinling's true soul cultivators could appear at these places at any time. Another 30 years passed. In the 50 years after Lu Ping became a true soul, Jiang Tianlin finally passed the 3rd lightning tribulation and became the first 2nd-generation adept to do so. Jinling became the 3rd pure yang adept. Following that, Wan Tianqi's abilities improved rapidly in the conflicts between the Central Plains and the various sections. He successfully passed the 1st lightning tribulation and became the first 4th-generation disciple of Jinling to reach the mid-Dharma stage. With the support of Lu Ping's large amount of elixirs and secret techniques, De Bao finally managed to form his Dharma power. He took back the treasure-hunting rat Laozu Zong, thieving Laozu's divine axe from Qinghu. Lei Di, who had followed Lu Ping for a long time, also passed the 2nd lightning tribulation and advanced to the late Dharma stage. He became Jinling's outer sect elder and traveled the world. However, it was not that there were no regrets in these 50 years. First, Liang Tianfeng Laozu did not manage to advance to the late Dharma stage and was reduced to ashes by the lightning tribulation. Not long after, even more tragic news came. The last 1st-generation disciple of Jinling, Laozu, who had been the mastermind and witness of Jinling's rise from a small and remote sect to its current status as a holy land, died of old age. He passed away in the spiritual grotto heaven, the final resting place of all the Dharma adepts of Jinling. Everyone in Jinling held the grandest funeral for Jinling's most respected elder. Not only the entire North Sea, but almost all the major sects and clans of the entire training world sent messengers to Tianling Island to offer their condolences. The entire funeral was presided over by the previous leader of Jinling, Lu Tianling. It was an extremely honorable event. Chapter 1531. After Tianxiang Laozu passed away, Jinling no longer had a first-generation cultivator. Jiang Tianlin and the other second-generation cultivators became the first-generation cultivators of Jinling, while Lu Ping and the other third-generation disciples became the second-generation cultivators of the sect. However, just 5 years later, Jinling sent another bad news. Tianqin Laozu ignored Jiang Tianlin and Gui Tianshan's advice and forcibly summoned the third lightning tribulation in an attempt to advance to the pure Yang realm. Unexpectedly, she died under the eighth lightning tribulation. This happened very suddenly. When Lu Ping received the news and rushed over from the seven-star grotto heaven, Tianqin Laozu's lightning tribulation had already reached the third lightning tribulation. At this time, even Lu Ping didn't dare to stop it, and could only watch as Tianqin Laozu died under the lightning tribulation. The deaths of senior brother Tianfeng and martial uncle Tianxiang were a huge blow to her. They were the two people who cared about her the most in the sect. She was never an independent person. Her intelligence, stubbornness, and pride all needed others to protect and tolerate her. In reality, she was more fragile than anyone else, and the care and tolerance only encouraged her arrogance and sensitivity. She didn't know the right way to pursue certain things and often chose to go to the extreme. Her ill-fated relationship with your martial uncle Jiang made her suffer a lot, so she didn't dare to reunite with Xian Er even until her death. She was able to persist in the East Sea for so long because of martial uncle Tianxiang's secret support and senior brother Tianfeng's frequent visits. She would have already collapsed. Tianqin Laozu's choice to summon the lightning tribulation at this time was completely inappropriate. It looked more like suicide. This made Lu Ping find it hard to understand Tianqin Laozu's willfulness. At the same time, he was dissatisfied that Jiang Tianlin and the other second-generation cultivators couldn't stop Tianqin Laozu's tribulation. Jiang Tianlin and Gui Tianshan naturally saw Lu Ping's dissatisfaction, but neither of them explained anything. In the end, it was Lu Tianling, who had always been at odds with Tianqin Laozu, who stood out. Lu Tianling was Lu Ping's teacher. Before Lu Ping condensed his dharma, she had always been Lu Ping's biggest supporter and protector in the sect. She was also the person Lu Ping trusted the most in the sect. Lu Ping had to listen to her. Since she has already made up her mind, unless you personally imprison her, even if you stop her today, she will still summon the thunder tribulation tomorrow. You can't stop her. In terms of understanding of Tianqin Laozu, Lu Tianling, who was also a woman, probably understood her feelings even better. The main reason is that senior brother Tianfeng's death was too great of a blow to her. His daughter, Lu Qingyao, who was born to him by Jiang Tianying, was already a late core forging adept. She was also an outstanding figure in Jinling sect. 8 years later, Jiang Tianying survived the second thunder tribulation and advanced to the late Dharma stage. She became the fifth adept of the second generation of Jinling to reach the late Dharma stage. But 7 years later, Tianyong was unable to withstand the ninth thunder tribulation and died. Lu Ping was very sad. In fact, Tianyong was not the first person in Lu Ping's generation to die from the thunder tribulation. In the end, Tianyong was still a little anxious. Putting aside Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu, Lu Tianyuan, Ji Tianxian, Jiang Tianying, and the others all advanced to the late Dharma stage before him. This made Tianyong, who was proud, a little anxious. From Lu Ping's point of view, if Tianyong could calm down and accumulate for 50 years, he might be able to withstand the last thunder tribulation. The death of his old friend made Lu Ping very sad. In Jinling, the number of Dharma adepts who advanced to the Dharma stage in Lu Ping's generation was like a blowout. But after they advanced to the Dharma stage, most of them stopped at the early Dharma stage, and had already exhausted their potential. But there were also people who had died before Tianyong, under the first Thunder Tribulation when they advanced to the mid-Dharma stage. After Tianyong died under the second Thunder Tribulation, many Dharma adepts who had been tempted by the Thunder Tribulation stopped. But the truly capable adepts were still not afraid of the power of the Thunder Tribulation, and were brave enough to take the next step on the road to immortality. 6 years later, news came from the Central Plains that Green Fox had successfully passed the second Thunder Tribulation. Now, like Lei Di, she was an outer elder of Jinling and was traveling around the world, keeping an eye on the overall situation of the training world. 5 years later, Jiang Tianxian had successfully advanced to the mid-Dharma stage. Another 3 years later, with Lu Ping's help, Sky Fox had also passed the first Thunder Tribulation. But from Lu Ping's point of view, Sky Fox had probably reached the point where his potential had been exhausted. Unless he had a special opportunity, it would be difficult for him to advance any further. Another 7 years later, Du Tianluo passed the first Thunder Tribulation and became the second third-generation adept in Jinling after Wang Tianqi to reach the mid-Dharma stage. In the next 6 years, nothing major happened in Jinling, so another 50 years passed. There were only 150 years left before the 500-year promise made by the Longhua ancestor. Time continued to pass, and soon, 50 years had passed. There were only 100 years left before the promise to gather in the northern ice plains. In these 50 years, Qi Tiankai had gathered her courage and successfully advanced to the late Dharma stage. Apart from Jiang Tianying, the rest of the Jinling adepts had all died during the second Thunder Tribulation. Soon after, Samling and Lu Qiner, who had been with Lu Ping the longest, had passed the second Thunder Tribulation and advanced to the late Dharma stage. After that, Yan Wujiu and some of the adepts of the Fire Phoenix tribe plotted together with Lu Ping's personal intervention and Jinling's forceful intervention. Lu Qiner returned to the Fire Phoenix tribe and began to fight for the position of the tribe leader. For this, Lu Qiner even begged Samling to accompany her to the East Sea to help her fight for the position of tribe leader. In addition, Samling and the other adepts were already a force to be reckoned with. With Yan Wujiu and Jinling's cooperation, Lu Qiner secured the position of tribe leader after killing a few of the Fire Phoenix tribe's diehard members. After that, Lu Ping sent a letter to the East Sea training community, saying that the Fire Phoenix tribe was under Jinling's protection and that any hostility towards the Fire Phoenix tribe could be seen as a provocation to Jinling. Due to the Fire Phoenix clan's surrender, Jinling's sex influence in the Eastern Sea's cultivation world had further increased. At the same time, the Fire Phoenix clan had also avoided the path of decline due to losing the protection of pure yang cultivators and internal strife. At the last moment of these 50 years, Jinling once again welcomed a joyous event. Tianqing Laozu had advanced to the pure yang stage. Originally, with Tianqing Laozu's potential, he was at most comparable to Gui Tianshan and Liang Tianfeng among the 3 truths and 4 spirits. In addition, he had already suffered an injury that had damaged his original aura, so he originally had no chance of becoming a pure yang. However, in order to heal his injury, Lu Ping had once refined a fire source elixir that was made from a leaf of the Samling 5 Elements leaf. Because of this fire source elixir, not only had Tianqing Laozu's injury recovered, but it had also improved his potential. Even his level of practice had improved by leaps and bounds. Now, he had become Jinling's 4th pure yang adept after Lu Ping, Yin Tianchu, and Jiang Tianlin. Naturally, it was worth celebrating by the whole of Jinling. Now that Jinling's status had risen, its power had also increased, and its knowledge had also increased. To reach the point where it wanted to celebrate, it could only be achieved when a pure yang adept appeared. Thinking back to the past in the North Sea, as long as a sect had a Dharma adept, it was worth celebrating. There was even a Dharma assembly, and all the sects would come to congratulate them. Now that Jinling had 3 generations of adepts who had reached the Dharma stage, the most it could do was to gather a few close friends and have some fun. What right did it have to involve so many people? Even in Jinling, at most, he would only receive a few words of praise. At most, he would be seen by Taiping Laozu and called to the Seven Stars Grotto Heaven to listen to the old man's lecture. After he came out, it would be enough for him to show off in front of his fellow disciples. Today, Junling had gathered 1 true spirit adept, 3 pure yang adepts, and 6 grand adepts. Although this level of power was still weak compared to the true foundation of a holy land, it had truly established the structure of a holy land. Chapter 1532. As the 500-year promise approached, Lu Ping felt more relaxed. Everything in Jinling was on the right track. More and more people began to recognize the reputation of the 7th holy land of the human race in the world of cultivation. In the next 50 years, Qin Tianlian successfully advanced to the late Dharma stage with the help of Lu Ping. Wang Tianqi also went through the 2nd Thunder Calamity. Now, he had made a big name for himself in the world of cultivation. He was known as the 3rd of the new generation of direct practitioners in the world of cultivation. In these years, Lu Ping's demon follower, Lu Xiaohai, who was from the Hanging Eyes White-Fronted Tiger clan, finally went through the 2nd Thunder Calamity and advanced to the late Dharma stage. Do you really want to go back to Shihuang? That is the territory of the Tenma people and the multicolored tigers. These 2 large demon tribes are now like the sun in the sky in Shihuang. If you go back like this, you might even lose your life. Lu Xiaohai cupped his hands at Lu Ping and said, All these years, I'm indebted to Master for saving my life, raising me up, and teaching me my skills. I, Lu Xiaohai, have no way to repay you. I'm willing to establish a force for Master in the West Baron, one that will be in harmony with Jinling sect. What's more, I heard from you that many of the Hanging Eyes White-Fronted Tiger clan are still lost in the multicolored tigers. I want to rebuild the Hanging Eyes White-Fronted Tiger clan. I hope you can help me. Seeing that Lu Xiaohai had made up his mind, Lu Ping nodded and said, All right, if that's the case, I will find a few more helpers for you. When the time comes, they can help you get a foothold as soon as possible. When Ji Tianxian received the news from Lu Ping, he was very confused. If he really had something to discuss, why did he call his wife? Ever since Du Jialuo's half-sister refused to marry Ji Tianxian became the target of ridicule among the cultivators of the same generation in Jinling. At one time, Ji Tianxian wanted to hide when he saw people. However, this little fox's heart was very dead. At that time, Du Jialuo's mother, Madame Du, was also nearing the end of her lifespan. Seeing that her daughter was determined, she had no choice but to have her son beg Lu Ping to come forward and matchmake the 2 of them. Lu Ping naturally knew that this bad friend of his was probably very willing. However, he could not bring himself to do it. Furthermore, the young fox Demonis was 1 generation younger than him. Gossip was a fearful thing, so it made Lu Ping apprehensive. It even delayed his cultivation for a period of time. For such a matter, if Lu Ping were to intervene, his prestige would be sufficient. However, his influence wouldn't be sufficient. In the end, Lu Ping had to seek help from Tian Shui Laozu, who was still alive at that time. Ultimately, it was this most daring Laozu who spoke up and personally presided over the marriage between the 2 of them. Only then did no one have any other opinions. Today, the little demon fox was already an early Dharma adept and the mother of 3 children. Seeing Ji Tianxian, Lu Ping asked him directly, Are you interested in making a trip to the western wilderness? Ji Tianxian turned to look at his wife beside him and suddenly understood. The current leader of the western wilderness Sand Fox clan was called Su Chun. Back then, he had received a favor from Lu Ping and had once saved Lu Xiaohai's life. All these years, Tu Chun's cultivation had soared to the mid-Dharma stage. He had been able to rise rapidly in the Sand Fox clan until he became the leader of the Sand Fox clan. Naturally, this was all because of Lu Ping's support. Even Lu Ping himself had not expected that a pawn he had made years ago would be of such great use today. Ji Tianxuan's wife's mother, Madame Du, was a descendant of the Western Wilderness Fox King clan. Although the little fox Demonis was a descendant of both the human and fox clans, the blood that flowed in her veins was the blood of the Fox King clan. Back then, the Western Wilderness Fox King clan had been persecuted by the Tenma people, and the entire Western Wilderness Fox clan hated the Pegasus clan. Now that a descendant of the Fox King clan had appeared, this would definitely have some impact on the situation of the Demon clan in the Western Wilderness. If Lu Xiaohai, with Ji Tianxuan's help, could take advantage of the situation, and with the help of the hidden forces that Lu Ping had instructed the Green Fox to travel in the Central Plains, they might be able to influence the situation of the Demon clan in the Western Wilderness. And all these years, with the full support of Lu Ping, Yin Tianxian had finally pushed his cultivation to the peak of the pure yang stage. However, at this point, Yin Tianxian had already discovered that in order to reach this stage, he had probably used up 70 to 80% of his potential. Even if there was still a possibility of improvement in the future, it would not be enough without 300 years of accumulation. But now, Lu Ping still had 50 years to go. If he could not become a true soul in time, Junling would probably face a break in the legacy of the true soul adepts. Moreover, even if Yin Tianxian really did accumulate 300 years of accumulation, when his lifespan was used up, even if his accumulation was enough, his body would start to age, and he would still not be able to become a true soul adept. Have you really made up your mind? Lu Ping asked Yin Tianxian again. I've decided, Yin Tianxian said with a smile. Right now, only I'm suitable. Our previous generation had almost no hope, but this generation you ran too fast. Other than me, who can still see your tail, the others can't even see your footprints. As for the next generation, they are not qualified. Lu Ping said with a bitter smile. That's right. In fact, in our sex legacy system, other than the true soul adepts, everything else has been put on the right track. The cultivation of the disciples has already been predicted and planned, but the true soul adepts have progressed a little too quickly. Strictly speaking, the standard of Junling's legacy should actually start from you. In front of the 7-star Heavenly Paradise's 9-dragon bell, there were dense runes flapping randomly on the surface of the bell. At the same time, there was a stone dragon carving that seemed to have come to life, swimming around the surface of the bell. Seeing Lu Ping bringing Tianxian in, the dragon carving shouted, Hey, don't tell me you want to leave me here to protect your true soul adepts of Junling? Laozi won't do that. Laozi still wants to travel the endless starry sky with you. Lu Ping laughed as he scolded. You idiot, that passage formation has a 90% chance of survival. At that time, it's hard to say if I can make it out or not. If I bring you and you die in there, don't even talk about traveling the starry sky, you might even be shattered along with me. What if you manage to make it out? If I can make it out, naturally I will open the passage. At that time, it will be safe and convenient to bring you out, but you have to guarantee that the true soul inheritance on the 9-dragon bell won't disappear. Yin Tianxian placed his palm on the wall of the 9-dragon bell and circulated his quintessential essence. Waves of cold air began to spread in the 7-star Heavenly Paradise. Wherever the air flow passed, it almost froze the space and even affected the stability of the 7-star Heavenly Paradise. Lu Ping nodded slightly. This level of strength was a top-notch existence even among pure yang cultivators. Although it could not be compared to Lu Ping and Xiao Baiyu back then, one should not forget that Yin Tianxian was not famous for fighting head-on. With his current strength, if he wanted to launch a sneak attack and assassinate, even Xiao Baiyu would have to be wary of him among the cultivators of the same generation. The runes on the 9-dragon bell quickly formed a secret technique for Yin Tianxian, and this shortcut to become a true soul was only effective for Yin Tianxian. Yin Tianxian, who had obtained the secret technique, immediately began to cultivate in seclusion in the True Soul Grotto Heaven at the top of Sky Spirit Mountain. He wanted to strive to become a true soul cultivator before Lu Ping made the 500-year promise. Only then could he complete the smooth transition of Zhiling's true soul inheritance. Now, he only had 50 years left. Chapter 1533. Ever since Lu Ping had become a celestial soul and returned to the North Sea, he had been planning for Zhiling's future. However, this did not mean that Lu Ping had given up on his own cultivation. On the contrary, because of the unpredictability of the passageway matrix, which was a matter of life and death, Lu Ping had been working even harder than before. Even though Lu Ping's cultivation speed after becoming a celestial soul could only be described as the speed of a tortoise. Fortunately, Lu Ping had accumulated enough strength before becoming a celestial soul, so when he entered the celestial soul stage, he had already reached the late stage of the first level of the celestial soul stage. Compared to most practitioners who had just entered the celestial soul stage, Lu Ping's starting point was unparalleled. After that, Lu Ping had followed the complete Soaring Dragon Galaxy technique and worked hard to cultivate. In the 100 years after becoming a celestial soul, he had first arrived and upgraded the shapeless sword technique to the supreme level of swordsmanship. After that, he had perfected one of the supreme powers of the Crystal Palace, the pristine ocean river technique, so that each of the 9 scales connected to the dragon's true spirit, and the dragon's reverse scale was planted with a supreme power seed. The supreme power of the Crystal Palace, the pristine ocean river technique, could be said to be a secret. Only the direct disciples of each generation had the right to learn it, and no one else had the right to cultivate it. The most typical example was the current Crystal Palace's guardian practitioner, Yuanjiu Laozu. Before this person had become a great practitioner, he had not been well known within the sect. In his generation of Crystal Palace disciples, he was not considered a direct practitioner at all. Therefore, naturally, he had not cultivated the pristine ocean river technique. However, after Yuanjiu Laozu had advanced to the late Dharma stage, his cultivation had suddenly entered a state of rapid growth. Many of the high and mighty direct practitioners had been left behind by him, and he had maintained this lead and was the first to enter the pure sun stage. However, at this time, when Yuanjiu Laozu had requested the sect to cultivate the pristine ocean river technique, he had been mercilessly rejected by the Crystal Palace. The reason was that he was not a direct disciple. This made Yuanjiu Laozu very angry, but he could not do anything about it. This also showed how much importance and persistence the Crystal Palace placed on this supreme power. Perhaps it was because of this that Yuanjiu Laozu became a pure sun practitioner. After becoming a pure sun practitioner, Yuanjiu Laozu did not relax at all. Instead, he continued to work hard to improve his own cultivation. This continued until he was chosen by Danzhu Laozu and successfully advanced to become the next guardian of the Crystal Palace. The entire Crystal Palace was free for him to choose from. Only then was the shackles that prevented him from cultivating this supreme power. And the reason why Lu Ping had obtained this supreme power was because of Ouyang Weijian. This Xianling sect disciple who had been cultivating with the Crystal Palace was very powerful. Lu Ping did not know how he had managed to obtain all the cultivation techniques of this supreme power. Unfortunately, before he could successfully cultivate it, he had fallen at the hands of Yin Tianchu. In the end, this set of techniques had become Jinling's spoils of war. After the 9 types of water attributes supreme power were cultivated to perfection, the 9 connected scales joined together. The 9 divine power seeds intertwined with each other, and condensed into a mysterious rune that Lu Ping had never seen before on the reverse scale. At the same time, the true yuan in Lu Ping's body circulated. The true yuan in his bloodlines surged like a great river. The true yuan condensed from the true spirit in his heart core space surged with monstrous waves. Lu Ping's cultivation had finally reached the perfection of the first level of the true spirit realm. At this moment, the entire sky above Sky Spirit Island was covered with dark clouds and thunder rumbled. A heavy pressure from heaven and earth instantly descended on the entire Sky Spirit Island. Lu Ping could not be more familiar with this kind of aura. It was the sign that the heavenly punishment was about to descend. His cultivation had reached the perfection of the first level of the true spirit realm. This had already surpassed the limit of what this world could bear. Raising his hand had the power to destroy the world, and even a small 1,000 world could not hide the cultivator's aura. If he didn't go to the passage formation now, the heavenly punishment would immediately descend and turn the cultivator to ashes. Lu Ping secretly sighed. The array formed from the 9 foundation array diagrams and the array comprehensions given to him by the Longhua ancestor couldn't compare to the 10,000 sky poison wall. It was enough to hide a normal first-level true spirit realm cultivator, but it was useless against a cultivator in the perfection of the first level of the true spirit realm. However, this was already very good. At least it could hide the aura of Lu Ping's perfection of the first level of the true spirit realm a bit. Otherwise, the heavenly punishment would have already descended, and he wouldn't be hesitating like this. Lu Ping arrived at the central palace in the 7-star heavenly cave. This was the 7-star palaces of the 7-star gentlemen in the past. There were large amounts of heaven and earth treasures the 7-star gentlemen had accumulated in the cultivation world, but now all of these things belonged to Zhenling. However, after Lu Ping broke the array protecting the 7-star palaces, he found that the 7-star palaces could form a profound array. This array could also hide the aura of a true spirit cultivator, and it was similar to the 10,000 sky poison wall, but the effect was too different. However, if a true spirit cultivator was in the 7-star palaces, they would be double hidden. Adding in the array Zhenling had arranged, it could be said that there were 3 layers of protection. It could completely hide the aura of a cultivator in the perfection of the first level of the true spirit realm. After Lu Ping activated the 7 stars array formation, the oppressive aura above Tianling Mountain suddenly dissipated. The dark clouds that covered the sky, along with the muffled rumbling of thunder, moved further and further away until they disappeared into the boundless horizon. Lu Ping's danger from the heavenly punishment was finally lifted. After his water-attributed source reached perfection and he successfully cultivated the first level of the true spirit realm, not only could Lu Ping cultivate the second level of the true spirit realm, he could even cultivate several sources at the same time. In fact, from the records of the Soaring Dragon Galaxy secret art, after a cultivator reached the true spirit realm, there were 2 ways to cultivate. One was to cultivate step by step, cultivating the next one after reaching the true spirit realm until all 7 sources were cultivated to perfection. Then, they would merge into one and become the thunder source, advancing to the 8th level of the true spirit realm. The second was to cultivate the true spirit realm to perfection and cultivate the other 6 sources at the same time. Like this, the cultivator's cultivation speed would be greatly slowed down. Moreover, the cultivator's cultivation would always be in the first level of the true spirit realm until all 6 sources reached perfection. The former was to cultivate step by step. The benefits were that the cultivation speed was fast, and the cultivator's strength would increase as the cultivator's cultivation increased. The cultivator's safety would also be guaranteed during the cultivation process. However, compared to the latter, the disadvantage was that breaking through to the 8th level of the true spirit realm would require a lot of effort and luck to succeed. The latter method would allow the cultivator's cultivation to always be in the first level of the true spirit realm. Although the cultivator's cultivation would rise to the peak of the 7th level of the true spirit realm, this was an extremely long process. Moreover, during this process, the cultivator's low strength and short lifespan would be a huge test compared to the first method. However, the latter method also had an unparalleled advantage, which was that after cultivating all 6 sources to perfection, there was a high chance of breaking through the bottleneck of the 8th level of the true spirit realm along with the life source. The 7 sources would become one and become the lightning source. For Lu Ping, he had no choice but to use the second method at this time because of the restrictions of this world. It was better for him to cultivate all 6 origins at the same time than to choose a single origin to cultivate the second realm. Not to mention that if Lu Ping really cultivated the second realm to a certain degree, even the 3 layers of protection on the Heavenly Spirit Mountain would not be able to hide Lu Ping's monstrous aura. At that time, the heavenly punishment would descend and Lu Ping would be finished. For the cultivation after the first level of the true spirit realm, the Soaring Dragon Star River technique had detailed records of both methods. No matter which method was used, one had to find the source of spiritual energy. This world could not compare to the endless starry sky, so there was very little source of spiritual energy. If a true spirit cultivator wanted to increase their cultivation, it would be very difficult. However, It was not that Lu Ping did not have a way to deal with this. He had already made preparations. Other than the many concerns Lu Ping had before, the reason why Lu Ping chose the second method was because he had a complete Samling's 5-element leaf and a complete seed of the Samling's 5-element leaf. The first thing Lu Ping had to do was to refine a complete 3 spirits 5-elemental leaf spirit pellet into a cauldron of 7 different origin spirit pellets. This was a genuine true spirit medicinal pellet, and only cultivators who had reached the true spirit level could concoct such pellets. Every single one of the 7 source spirit pills was indispensable. Losing even one meant that the concoction of this batch of pills was a complete failure. Even if another batch was concocted, it would be impossible to make up for it. Only by concocting a batch of source spirit pills from the same batch could a cultivator refine them into pure source spirit auras of 7 different attributes. This would help the cultivator open up the other 6 source spirit cultivation paths besides his own source spirit cultivation paths. With Lu Ping's current attainments in alchemy, he was still trembling with fear when refining the source leaf pill. He was deeply afraid that he would fail if he was not careful. This could be said to be a new test for Lu Ping's alchemy skills. The Na Chuan cauldron was now a psychic treasure that had condensed 4 treasure restrictions. This psychic treasure restriction was something that Lu Ping had obtained from the ancient books of the Nine Xian Tower. It had taken him a full 6 years to successfully condense this treasure restriction on the cauldron. It took Lu Ping 3 years to concoct the origin leaf spirit pellets, and a great deal of his energy. The moment the cauldron was opened and the spirit pellets were released, the 2 pellet pavilion disciples sent by Tianyu to assist Lu Ping in his alchemy had both improved their cultivation bases by 1 level. Not long after they returned to Pellet Pavilion, they successfully advanced their alchemy skills to the Grand Master level. And these 7 true spirit origin leaf spirit pills allowed Lu Ping to successfully cultivate the other 6 origins at the same time. Chapter 1534. It was a complicated and difficult process to analyze and condense the different attributes of origin qi from the world's spiritual energy. Moreover, the efficiency was extremely low. After Lu Ping used the Samling 5-elemental leaf to refine the origin leaf spirit pill, he successfully opened the path to cultivating all 6 origin qi at the same time. After experiencing the initial stage of refining the origin leaf spirit pill, Lu Ping's cultivation process fell into an extremely slow process. It was like holding a ladle and pouring water into a vast lake. Although he knew that the lake's water level was increasing, he could not see the lake's surface expanding. In desperation, Lu Ping could only prepare to refine the second batch of origin leaf spirit pills. This was because Lu Ping already had a second mature Samling 5-elemental leaf in his hands. This Samling 5-elemental leaf had actually been planted in the Golden House when Lu Ping became a true spirit. However, at this time, Lu Ping only had a Duan Dan middle stage wood phoenix golden core. Its effects could not be compared to the late core forging golden core. Moreover, at this time, the Samling 5-elemental leaf didn't have enough origin qi to be absorbed by the Samling 5-elemental leaf. Therefore, Lu Ping could only collect origin qi from low-grade mystic class to high-grade heaven class. Moreover, he could not affect the development of Zhenling's inheritance. Fortunately, Zhenling had been prospering in the past few years. In the end, Lu Ping had collected all 45 different kinds of origin qi. However, Lu Ping also knew that this kind of thing could not be repeated. At the very least, it could not be repeated in a short period of time. Otherwise, the consumption of a large number of origin qi, especially high-grade origin qi, would certainly have a very bad impact on Zhenling's inheritance. At this time, Yin Tianchu came to find Lu Ping. "Where did you get these things?" Lu Ping looked at the 3 light feathers of the peacock royalty, and asked in surprise. The life-bound plume feather was an extremely important item for the peacock royalty. Some time ago, the peacock royalty had even gone on a wild hunt for the culprit after several Yao cultivators from the royal family were killed and their life-bound plume feather was taken away. It could be considered as one of the few incidents that had happened in the world of cultivation in recent years. In the end, for some reason, they found out about the Tyrant Tortoise clan. In the beginning, the two clans bickered with each other, but for some reason, a conflict suddenly broke out. If it weren't for the high-grade cultivators on both sides deliberately suppressing the scale of the conflict, perhaps the two clans with the longest heritage in the cultivation world would have engaged in a head-on battle. That pure young cultivator from the Tyrant Turtle clan did not discover your true identity, right? Although Lu Ping was very confident in Yin Tianchu's concealment skills, he had no choice but to be cautious when it came to the two monster clans. Not to mention, Yin Tianchu had just overcome his third thunder tribulation and was traveling around the world. That Ba Gui clan's pure young monarch was obviously a veteran pure young monarch. Not at all. Yin Tianchu was really full of confidence, but he still said, "But they will indeed suspect my identity. After all, in this world, to be able to use a concealment ability at such a distance without being discovered by cultivators of the same level, I am indeed the most suspicious." Lu Ping nodded and said, "That's good. As long as I'm not caught, neither the Tyrant Turtle clan nor the Peacock royalty would dare to accuse me for no reason. Now, my clan has the confidence to do so." Yin Tianchu waved the 3 feathers in his hand and said, "By the way, are these things useful to you?" Lu Ping chuckled and said, "It's useful, very useful." The life feather of a peacock royalty cultivator was one of the few things that a true spirit cultivator could directly use to practice in this world. Lu Ping himself had an earth element life feather that he had obtained from a member of the peacock royalty. It was a pity that the feather was only an early Dharma stage demonic cultivator's possession, so the chi of the origin it contained was naturally very thin. The effect it had on Lu Ping's practice was almost negligible, so Lu Ping had never used this feather. Looking at the 3 life feathers in Yin Tianchu's hand, Lu Ping was rather tempted. The 3 life feathers in Yin Tianchu's hand contained gold element, wood element, and fire element yuan qi. The concentration of the yuan qi was far greater than that of the feather in Lu Ping's hand. These 3 feathers were at least something that could only be produced by a peacock royalty cultivator at the mid-Dharma stage and above. However, Lu Ping could use the 4 feathers to form a simple 5-elemental cycle with his water elemental true spirit. This way, Lu Ping would be able to minimize the consumption of his water elemental true spirit in the process of absorbing the feather's true spirit. Not only that, but he would also be able to achieve a balance with his water elemental true spirit. Although this would cause his wind and ice elemental essences to lag behind, under such circumstances, it was unrealistic for Lu Ping to keep the other 6 elemental essences advancing at the same time. It was already extremely valuable for him to be able to form a cycle with 4 elemental essences. "Oh yes, you said that your life feather was snatched from you in Jinglei?" Yin Tianchu nodded and said, "That's right, but that guy is already dead." Lu Ping knew why this guy had tried so hard to obtain the life feather of a peacock royalty cultivator. He looked at Yin Tianchu and said, "Did you not obtain the method to make the 5 elements spirit light fan from him?" 5 elements spirit light fan? Yin Tianchu said in surprise. That Yuan Jinglei entered the Endless Mountains to kill a peacock royalty cultivator, and took his life feather. Could it be that he wanted to make this thing? That should be the case. Yin Tianchu shook his head and said, "I have never seen this thing. However, even if he made the 5 elements spirit light fan, how would he use it? Other than thunder spells, what else could the Yuan family practice? Moreover, without the support of the 5 elements spirit light fan, how much of its power can it display?" Lu Ping said with a smile, "I'm afraid that only the Yuan family and the peacock royalty cultivators know about this. After all, the 2 of them are considered the 2 most prominent direct descendants of Pingdaoren. Perhaps there are some secrets that Pingdaoren left behind that no one knows about. Then why did the Ba Gui clan's pure yang cultivator want to snatch the life feather from Yuan Jinglei?" Lu Ping lightly said, "Because this is related to the cultivation of a true spirit cultivator. Although he couldn't pass the Soaring Dragon Star River RT in Tianchu and he couldn't cultivate it, Lu Ping still had to tell him about the cultivation process and basic things of the true spirit cultivator. After all, these things would be the contents of Jinling's true spirit inheritance system in the future. It would be best if every Jinling's true spirit inheritor grasped these things. The 5 elemental origin energy in the 5 element tortoise treasury had been absorbed by Lu Ping's Samling 5 element leaf. Adding in the fact that the 5 elemental origin energy was useful for a true spirit cultivator's cultivation, it was very difficult to absorb and refine it. Especially when a true spirit cultivator had cultivated the first true spirit realm to the perfection realm, and was preparing to start the second realm or cultivate the 6 great sources together. Just opening a cultivation path and accommodating the first source energy of other attributes was an extremely difficult threshold to reach, but Lu Ping had easily crossed this threshold because he had the source leaf spirit pill refined from the Samling 5 element leaf. Lu Ping now had a mature Samling 5 element leaf in his hands, but he had spent over 100 years and paid a great price. It was a pity that the 5 element tortoise treasury was already in the hands of the Bagui clan. Even though Lu Ping had 3 more Samling 5 element leaf seeds, he could not use the 5 elemental origin energy in the tortoise treasury. Not to mention that the 5 elemental origin energy in the tortoise treasury was already useless to the true spirit cultivator hidden within, which was why they had set their sights on the monster cultivator with the peacock royalty, wanting to find another way. This should also be the reason for the conflict between the 2 monster clans. But because Lu Ping had the Samling 5 element leaf seed, he could absorb the 5 elemental origin energy to grow, and after refining the pill, he could turn it into a pill that could be easily absorbed and refined by the true spirit cultivator. This way, he could use it even faster than the Bagui clan's true spirit cultivator. Chapter 1535. Actually, if you want to find the 5 elemental Yuan Qi, there is another place. Have you thought about it? Lu Ping wasn't surprised. He said indifferently, "You mean the demon dens?" Yin Tianchu was stunned. "Senior brother has thought of it?" Lu Ping shook his head and smiled. "I only thought of it when you talked about Yuan Jinglei." Yin Tianchu let out a nose sound and said with a smile, "The origin of the Mo Luo is the original energy of the 7 great attributes. Those devil caves, especially those sacrificial altars that give birth to the Mo Luo, perhaps have the energy of the 5 elements. If we can find a way to collect these energies, perhaps it will be a great help to Brother's cultivation base." Lu Ping nodded. "That may work. But the 5 elemental Yuan Qi in those devil's dens has already dispersed. We can only find those devil's dens with altars that have not been destroyed, or those that have not been discovered yet." Speaking of this, Lu Ping seemed to have thought of something. "How many devil's dens have we found in the area under our control?" Yin Tianchu thought for a moment and said, "We've discovered 2 large-scale demon caves that can spawn heavenly demons. One is in the Eastern Sea's Fallen Mystery Land, about 3,000 miles away from the 5 illusory islands. The other one is near the Hebei cultivation world Xingyu Swamp. There are 7 medium-sized demon caves that can spawn Azuras. Among them, we've discovered 4 in the North Sea, 2 in the Middle Continent, and 1 in the Eastern Sea. There are the most small-scale demon caves that can spawn blood demons. There are about a dozen of them, spread throughout the North Sea, Hebei cultivation world, and the Eastern Sea's Fallen Mystery Land." Yin Tianchu paused and said, "But most of these Mara have been destroyed as soon as they were discovered, especially the altars in the devil's dens. The 5 elemental Yuan Qi in them has probably dispersed long ago. If we want to find the 5 elemental Yuan Qi, we can only go to those devil's dens that have not been discovered yet." Lu Ping nodded. All these years, the whole cultivation world has worked together to find and destroy many devil's dens. But since the Yuan family opened the sky, there must be many more that have not been discovered yet. We need to continue to search for them. Lu Ping opened the golden house, and the 2 entered it. They came to the place where Lu Ping used to nurture the first Samling 5 elements leaf. At this moment, there were still 2 Samling 5 elements leaves being nurtured, but they did not have the wood phoenix golden elixir to help them grow. Now, there were 5 kinds of upper mystic rank spiritual objects around each of the 2 spiritual plants, and the third leaf of the spiritual plant was also in the process of growing. Lu Ping pointed at the Samling Five Elements leaf and said, "In the past, I obtained the first Samling Five Elements leaf from the cultivators of the Crystal Palace. Then I nurtured it in the Five Elements Tortoise Vault and obtained 3 seeds. One of them was nurtured into a 7-leaf spiritual plant. Then I used one of the leaves to refine the Fire Source pill, which healed Marshal Uncle Tiancheng's injury. As for the remaining 2 seeds, after 100 years of accumulation, it has nurtured and matured again. Then, the 2 seeds I harvested are here." At this point, Lu Ping handed one of the seeds to Yin Tianchu and said, "This is the last seed left behind after the first Samling Five Elements leaf matured. I specially left it for you. You already know the effect of the Samling Five Elements leaf seed and how to nurture it. In the future, when you become a true spirit cultivator, you can use this to build the cultivation foundation of the other 6 sources. It will be twice the result with half the effort." Yin Tianchu waved his hand and said, "This is too precious. Moreover, Senior Brother still needs to prepare for the upcoming 500-year agreement. If the passage cannot be opened, the entire cultivation world will continue to be trapped in this world. Even if you become a true spirit cultivator in the future, it will be useless to use this treasure. It is better for Senior Brother to keep it and increase your strength a little." Lu Ping shook his head and said, "Being able to find this kind of starry sky spiritual object once is already a blessing from the heavens. If it is used repeatedly, its effect will be greatly reduced until it becomes useless. I have already used a complete spiritual object to refine the Source Leaf Spirit Pill, and I still have a fully matured spiritual herb. As for the 2 that are being nurtured on the ground, they need the sect's help, so any more would just be a waste. Not to mention that I also want this treasure to be passed down in the sect, but it is difficult to nurture it. In the future, when Junior Brother becomes a true spirit cultivator, you can't recklessly use the sect's resources to nurture it. Just like what Junior Brother said before, if the passage is opened, this thing won't have much use after being used once. You can go out of this world and find a way to advance in the endless starry sky. But if opening the passage fails and we can't succeed with so many true spirit cultivators, it will be useless no matter how many true spirit cultivators use this Source Leaf Spirit Pill. Therefore, every generation of true spirit cultivators only needs to nurture one Samling Five-Element leaf without affecting the sect's inheritance. Secondly, the number of seeds that will be formed after this thing matures is uncertain, but it won't exceed 3. It might even be possible that there won't be any seeds after it matures. Therefore, when Junior Brother nurtures the seeds in your hands, don't tell your juniors to keep 1 or 2 seeds just in case." When Yin Tianchu heard this, he put away the seeds and said, "Does Senior Brother have any other orders?" Lu Ping pointed at the 2 Samling Five-Element leaves on the ground and said, "I'll have to trouble Junior Brother to bring these 2 herbs to the demon caves that have been discovered and see if our guesses are correct. It would be best if you can find a demon cave that hasn't been discovered before. The 5-element spirit energy there should be the most abundant." Yin Tianchu said, "Don't worry, Senior Brother, I'll leave this matter to the great cultivators in the sect." Lu Ping replied, "The Samling Five-Element leaves is not a trivial matter. If someone with ulterior motives knows about its existence, I'm afraid our sect won't be at peace. Therefore, we must be careful not to let other sects know about its existence." Lu Ping thought for a moment and said, "In addition, if I'm not wrong, the 5-element spirit energy left in the 5-element turtle vault is already insufficient. When the pure yang cultivators of the Bagui clan chased after Yuan Jinglei, they wanted to collect all the treasures that contained the 5-element spirit energy. I'm afraid the Bagui clan will also discover the secret of the 5-element spirit energy in the demon caves. In this way, the survivors of the Yuan clan, especially those who know the most secrets of the Yuan clan and the high-level cultivators, will also be noticed by the Bagui clan. If Junior Brother wants to use the survivors of the Yuan clan to find the undiscovered demon caves, you must be careful of the Bagui clan." Lu Ping knew that it would be a long process to find devil's dens and use the residual 5-elemental yuan qi to grow the 2 Samling 5-elemental leaves. Apart from the fact that growing the two samling 5 elemental leaves required a massive amount of 5 elemental yuan qi, it was hard to say whether there was any 5 elemental yuan qi in those devil's dens that had already been discovered. When the time came, he would still have to find those devil's dens that had not been discovered yet. Moreover, it would be impossible to find a small number of devil's dens, not to mention the possibility of casualties in the process of finding new devil's dens. While Yin Tianchu was secretly mobilizing the Jinling cultivators to search for those hidden devil's dens in the depths of the cultivation world, Lu Ping was already using the second matured Samling 5 Elements leaf to concoct the second batch of Origin Leaf Spirit pills. As Lu Ping had expected, after taking and refining the second batch of Origin Leaf Spirit pills, the effects of the second batch of Origin Leaf Spirit pills were greatly reduced compared to the first batch. It was only 60% as effective as the first batch. However, considering Lu Ping's present rate of cultivation, it was already a huge improvement. After Lu Ping utilized the 5 elemental cycle to absorb the 4 peacock feathers essence energy for his own use, his metal, wood, fire, and earth essences had each reached the peak of the early stage. There was only one step left before they could advance to the mid-stage. As for the ice and wind essences, they were not far from the peak of the early stage as well. Lu Ping could not help but sigh inwardly. It had taken Lu Ping nearly 200 years to cultivate all 6 essences to this level. This speed of cultivation was truly unflattering. At the same time, Lu Ping's yearning for the infinite starry sky grew. In order to enter the infinite starry sky, he would need to completely open up the passageway leading to the outside world from the northern ice plains. With only 50 years left before the 500-year deadline, the two great human and demon forces, led by the Ba Gui clan and the Jinling clan, began a large-scale excavation of the undiscovered devil's dens in the cultivation world. At the same time, they began a mad hunt for the remnants of the Yuan clan, setting off the second wave of killing Mara after the destruction of the Yuan clan. In the beginning, the other sects and clans in the cultivation world were surprised by this. However, they did not care about it. Some sects and clans had even informed the two sects about the devil's dens and the remnants of the Yuan clan. They were happy to see the two sects and clans suffer losses in the process of hunting down Mara and the Yuan clan. It was only when Jinling clan and the Ba Gui clan fought over the devil's den and the remnants of the Yuan clan that the entire cultivation world became vigilant. First, the Peacock royalty realized the purpose of the Ba Gui clan's search for the devil's den because of the life feather. After finding out the use of the 5 elemental qi, all the cultivators in the Peacock race immediately joined the Ba Gui clan and Jinling clan in searching for the devil's den and hunting down the remnants of the Yuan clan. However, compared to the previous two clans, their actions had lagged behind by several years. Following that, the various sects and clans with true spirit cultivators in the cultivation world immediately joined in after hearing the news. However, although the major forces and clans of the human and demon races knew about the use of the 5 elemental qi for the cultivation of true spirit cultivators, they did not know that Jinling was collecting the 5 elemental qi to grow the 2 Samling 5 elemental leaves. After the destruction of the huge Yuan clan, there were still many disciples hidden in the cultivation world. After all, it was the #1 clan since the beginning of the world. Under the careful planning of the branches and leaves, how could it be so easy to clean them up? However, this time, they once again suffered a devastating blow, especially after the most outstanding Yuan 3 heroes of the Yuan clan, Yuan Ke, was killed by the 2 pure yang cultivators of the Ba Gui clan. It became more and more difficult to find the cultivators of the Yuan clan, and the number of devil's dens that were dug deep underground became less and less. This cleanup operation against the Yuan clan lasted for around 30 years, and Yin Tianchu finally brought Lu Ping a fully matured Samling 5 elemental leaf and 2 seeds. After the spirit herb was refined into the third batch of Origin Leaf Spirit pills by Lu Ping, the original 60% efficacy was reduced to 30%. But even so, the cultivation of the 6 main essences entered the middle stage at the same time. The 4 main essences of metal, wood, fire, and earth were only slightly more than the 2 main essences of ice and wind, which were almost negligible. During these 30 years, Ji Tianxian, who had helped Lu Shaohai gather the remaining forces of the Hanging Eyes White-Fronted Tiger clan with the Fox clan in the Western Wilderness and gradually began to establish a foothold in the Western Wilderness, finally summoned the Third Thunder Tribulation before Lu Tianyuan, becoming the third pure yang cultivator of the second generation of Zhenling disciples led by Lu Ping. As for the third generation disciple Du Tianluo, who had passed the second Thunder Tribulation, because of his outstanding performance in assisting Yin Tianchu in presiding over the cleanup of the Yuan clan and the excavation of the Devil's Den, he smoothly took over the position of head of Zhenling after Lu Tianyuan relinquished the position of head of Zhenling, and became the third head of Zhenling. And during these 30 years, the fourth generation disciples of Zhenling also began to show their talents. 2 of them reached the Dharma stage and advanced to the early Dharma stage, becoming the first and second true adepts of the fourth generation. In the last 20 years before the 500-year promise, Yin Tianchu, who had finally achieved the Ice Dragon True Spirit by relying on the secret inherited technique, used a year to travel the world and announce the birth of a new generation of True Spirit adepts of Zhenling. However, at the source of the Qingming River, the last member of the 3 heroes of Yuan, who was also the most outstanding adept of the Yuan clan, Yuan Feixiang. At this time, Yuan Feixiang was already at the peak of pure yang, and the quality of the 7 treasures Thunder Calabash in her hands was much higher than the Thunder Calabash in Lu Ping's hands. However, when faced with Yin Tianchu, a true spirit adept who walked in the void and specialized in sneak attacks, she could only helplessly succumb to his short spear. The fall of the last outstanding member of the Yuan clan announced the end of the first heaven opening clan. After the fall of Yuan Feixiang, Yin Tianchu followed the map and found 3 giant and 6 large underground demon caves near the source of the Qingming River. After destroying Mara and destroying the altars one by one, Yin Tianchu returned to the North Sea and brought back another mature Samling 5 elements leaf and a seed for Lu Ping, as well as a 7 treasures Thunder Calabash that was far superior in quality and power to the one in Lu Ping's hands. However, after the 4th batch of Source Leaf Spirit Pill was refined by Lu Ping, it was only left with 10% of its original effect. For Lu Ping, who had raised the cultivation of all 6 main sources to the middle stage, the effect was almost negligible, but it was better than nothing. At this time, the 500-year promise finally came. Chapter 1536. On this day, the firmament of myriad poisons that shrouded the secret zone had turned verdant green without anyone noticing. In the center of the vast secret land of meteorites, there was still a majestic vitality everywhere, but the towering tree in the center that almost supported the entire firmament wall of poisons had disappeared. At this time, the Longhui ancestor had not changed at all compared to 500 years ago, but the aura around him had become more ethereal and profound. At this time, he stood in front of the many cultivators of the Spirit Demon clan with his hands behind his back and said indifferently, "Over the past 500 years, the old man has established the foundation for the Spirit Demon clan. However, when the old man is alive, no one in the cultivation world would dare to make things difficult for you. But after the old man is gone, the Spirit Demon clan will inevitably be attacked by various sects in the cultivation world. You must not act impulsively. You must know that it will be a long process for the entire cultivation world to accept your existence. This process may be accompanied by fierce conflicts, but the Spirit Demon clan must not lose its inheritance, otherwise the future will be worrying." Longhui ancestor paused and then said, "If it really comes to a time of crisis, you might as well ask for help from the North Sea Zhenling. Only this family can be a true ally of the Spirit Demon clan. As for the Heavenly Mystery Sect and the Green Sea Snakes, you can also consider them as friends. However, after the Chi Fan leaves with the old man, the Heavenly Mystery Sect may also be affected. You must take care of yourselves." Below Longhui ancestor, a middle-aged cultivator with a poplar hairpin on his head and dozens of high-level cultivators of the Spirit Demon clan bowed to the Longhui ancestor in unison, respectfully sending off the ancestor of the Spirit Demon clan to the North Ice Plains. By the time everyone got up, the Longhua ancestor had already disappeared in front of everyone, leaving only a lamp with a flickering green flame at the place where he had left. A soul lamp. The spirit demon clan cultivators gradually dispersed, leaving only the middle-aged cultivator and 2 pure yang spirit demon cultivators guarding the soul lamp. Above the myriad poison firmament wall, the Longhua ancestor's gaze seemed to be able to penetrate the myriad poison firmament wall and see everything that was happening in the secret land of the fallen mountain. After a while, the Longhua ancestor said, "I'm afraid that we will most likely die on this trip. Have the 3 of you made arrangements for the aftermath?" Chu Fanyin smiled and said, "There's no need for the green sea snakes to make any arrangements. What happened in the past will remain the same in the future. It won't be affected by the old man." The Longhua ancestor nodded and said, "The green sea snakes have been a large demon clan since the beginning of the world. They have a perfect inheritance system, so there's naturally no need for any arrangements." The 7 fans Laozi sighed and said, "The old man fell into a trap. It was only when I met Senior that I found out that the true spirit inheritance of the 9 profound house differs from person to person. The heavenly profound sect has expanded a lot in recent years because the old man thinks that there's a chance for them to become a holy land. The old man will definitely be affected when he goes there. The old man has already informed the people in charge of the sect to restrain themselves after the old man leaves. I hope they will listen to him." The Longhua ancestor sighed and said, "The struggle for benefits is the most irrational. You don't need to worry. If we can break through the passage formation and survive, even if we can't return to this world, it's not impossible for us to contact each other. In this way, you can continue to protect the heavenly profound sect. At least, you won't be suppressed too much." The Longhua ancestor then looked at the other true spirit cultivator. This was a cultivator from the Central Plains who had just become a true spirit cultivator 100 years ago. It was unknown where he got the news from, but after becoming a true spirit, he rushed to the Eastern Sea to beg the Longhua ancestor for protection. Old Ancestor Longhua was deeply aware of the difficulty and dangers of opening up the passageway grand formation, and an additional person meant an additional portion of strength. Thus, he ordered Old Ancestor Longhua to enter the secret grounds and use the myriad firmament poison wall to conceal his true spirit aura. The true spirit cultivator didn't wait for the Longhua ancestor to ask before he smiled and said, "Senior also knows that this junior is a rogue cultivator and a loner. When I went to the Eastern Sea, I left behind my inheritance in the Central Plains, waiting for fate." Ancestor Longhua nodded and said, "Then let's head to the northern ice plains. We must rush over to the vicinity of the passageway formation before the quintessence of the heavens and the earth of this world reacts. Otherwise, heavenly wrath will descend once the tribulation clouds above us have completely condensed 6 hours from now." The 3 of them looked up at the clouds that had already begun to gather above their heads, and they recalled the vast divine might that Patriarch Longhua had when he was being punished by the heavens. Their expressions changed, so they each flew up into streaks of light and chased after Patriarch Longhua toward the north. At the same time, in the southern sea's 5-element tortoise treasury, the 5-colored light was now empty. The true spirit cultivator of the Bagui clan, Xiang Laozu, looked up at the sky and said with a smile, "It's about time." He, the old man has followed the inheritance left behind by the turtle Laozu, and has finally reached the peak of the first true spirit realm. I don't think he's any weaker than the Longhua ancestor. Standing beside Xiang Laozu was Xiang Guotian, who had chased after Yuan Jinglei. There was a flash of darkness in his eyes, but he still forced a smile and said, "Uncle's might is unparalleled. The turtle Laozu's 10,000-year plan will definitely become a reality in Uncle's hands. Although the Longhua ancestor has limitless glory, who knows if he will become a gift for Uncle in the end?" The current Xiang Guotian's aura was obscure, making it hard for people to see through him. He was already a true spirit cultivator, and was the successor of the Bagui clan after Laozu. Xiang Laozu seemed to have already guessed what Xiang Guotian was thinking and said, "You don't need to be upset that the old man absorbed all the 5 elemental origin energy in the tortoise treasury. You have to know that this trip to the northern ice plains is very important. If the old man and the others can't open the passage to the endless starry sky, what use is there for you to have the 5 elemental origin energy? On the other hand, if the old man and the others can open the passage, the endless starry sky will have endless origin energy for you to absorb. What's the use of the tortoise treasury then? Xiang Guotian quickly said. Uncle has misunderstood. If it wasn't for Uncle's guidance, how could this little nephew inherit the Ba Gui clan's true spirit position? This little nephew wishes Uncle a successful trip to the northern ice plains and a long life. Xiang Laozu took a deep look at Xiang Guotian, and Xiang Guotian couldn't help lowering his head even more. However, he heard Laozu say, "It doesn't matter if the old man lives or dies, the Ba Gui clan is in your hands. After the old man leaves, you have to be careful of the Endless Mountains peacock royalty. The old man has killed quite a few members of the royal clan in order to cultivate to the peak of the first true spirit realm, taking their life feathers. Be careful of the revenge from the peacock race in the future." Xiang Guotian said absent-mindedly, "Don't worry, Uncle." Xiang Laozu could see the perfunctory look in Xiang Guotian's eyes, but it was already the last moment of the agreement. Xiang Laozu could only sigh in his heart and say, "Even so, look after the old man's soul lamp. The old man is leaving." A loud roar rang out from the depths of the South China Sea. The surface of the entire South China Sea's cultivation world surged with waves and tsunamis. Every now and then, huge islands would break through the surface of the sea and rise. Countless turtle heads would emerge from the backs of the island like turtles, howling continuously at the multicolored light that flashed across the sky. At the same time, in the boundless mountain range, in the Lingyun Valley, in the Skyward Pavilion, in the Purple Sun Palace, and outside the Western Wilderness, similar scenes were playing out. From time to time, there would be streaks of light streaking across the sky as cultivators from various sects and tribes sent off their hopes, heading towards the northernmost part of the northern ice plains. In the northern sea's 7 stars grotto heaven, Lu Ping said to Yin Tianchu, "Junior brother, I'll leave Jinling to you from now on." Yin Tianchu hesitated for a moment and said, "The northern ice plains is extremely dangerous. Everyone in the sect wants to send you off, as well as my 2 sisters-in-law and my 2 children. Senior brother, aren't you going to meet them?" Lu Ping was stunned for a moment, and said with a smile, "It's not like we'll be parting forever. Why do we have to make such a big scene? It looks like they're sending me off. It'll only make me worry if I meet them. It's better to leave quietly." Yin Tianchu wanted to say something, but he held back in the end and said, "If that's the case, I'll guard the soul lamp in the 7 stars grotto heaven for you. However, shouldn't you give 1 soul lamp to my 2 sisters-in-law and 4 nephews to guard as a memento?" Lu Ping thought about it, and shook his head in the end. "Regarding the soul lamp, unless I successfully open the passage in the northern ice plains and come back alive, only you need to know about it. Moreover, no one knows if the soul lamp will still be connected to me once I leave this world. If I give it to Tianhu and Tianying, the news will definitely not be hidden anymore. If I leave this world and cut off my connection with the soul lamp, the sect will think that I'm dead. It'll be troublesome if it causes chaos in the sect." Yin Tianchu still wanted to persuade him, but he heard Lu Ping say, "It's time. With my current cultivation, I can only stay outside of winter for 6 hours. Otherwise, I'll definitely be punished. Junior brother, don't say anything more. I'm going north immediately." A dragon's roar sounded in the sky above Heaven's Spirit Mountain. A purple gold true dragon turned into light and flew out of the 7 stars grotto heaven. The true spirit cultivators gathered on Heaven's Spirit Island only saw a purple gold light flash from the top of the mountain. Then, the true spirit's main body could be vaguely seen in the clouds above the mountain. Apart from the life dragon scale under its abdomen that was engraved with 9 spells, the rest of the dragon scales below its head also had several dragon scales that were engraved with spells. The true spirit dragon circled twice in the clouds. Then, with a deep and distant roar, the sea of clouds shook and went straight into the sky. Chapter 1537. On an icy plain in the extreme north of the northern ice plains, violent cold winds swept up large snowflakes and caused strange whistling sounds to fill the air as they wreaked havoc on this icy plain. Apart from a vast expanse of white, there was no other color in the entire world. However, in a remote icy plain in this barren land, the whistling winds seemed to encounter an invisible wall when they reached this place. Of the large snowflakes that filled the sky, not a single one fell into the icy plain. Over 10 cultivators of different appearances were currently standing in the icy plain. Most of these cultivators were elderly. Even Xiao Baiyu, who looked the youngest among them, was dressed like a middle-aged man in his 40s. These cultivators were gathered together, and each of them had a different expression and temperament. Some were domineering, some were refined, some were fierce, some were ordinary, some were dignified, and some were unremarkable. However, at this moment, they did not seem out of place at all. Right at this moment, a tall old man around the age of 50 with a long face and a fierce and ferocious aura grunted angrily and said, "We only have 6 hours to converge. Now that half of the time has passed and everyone has already arrived, why hasn't that Northern Sea's Lu Taiping arrived yet? This junior is truly unreasonable. Could it be that his Northern Sea is even further away than the old man's western wilderness?" To the side, Xiao Baiyu's fierce aura was even stronger than that of the long-faced cultivator. When he heard this, a slight smile appeared on his face, and his eyes were half closed. He said, "Fellow Ma, why are you in such a hurry? Only half of the 6 hours have passed." This long-faced Laozu was the former patriarch of the Pegasus clan, Ma Zhen. He was also the father of Ma Chengwang, who had died at the hands of Lu Ping in the sacred settling lake. It was obvious that this person had a deep prejudice against Lu Ping. Hee. Ma Zhen laughed coldly, but did not say much about this. It was obvious that he was wary of Xiao Baiyu. Guan Yu and Laozu of Wishing School, who seemed to be in harmony, hurriedly tried to smooth things over. "Let's not quarrel. The channel formation is full of dangers. It's time for us to work together. Don't mess up." As soon as Guan Yu and Laozu finished speaking, a rough voice rang out. "The situation we're facing right now is unprecedented since the beginning of time. It concerns the success or failure of the entire cultivation world's belief in longevity. How can we not be cautious?" The one who spoke was a majestic old man whose arms were covered with brightly colored tattoos. His eyes, which were as big as copper bells, shone brightly when he opened and closed them. The vigorous and violent aura around him made people feel as if he was about to devour them. Although we have contacted each other and discussed many plans in the past 500 years, we are still restricted by the rejection of this world. We can only communicate with each other through the younger generation. We have never had face-to-face communication. The old man's words had an imposing manner. His loud and clear voice even caused the dancing snowflakes around the ice call to move 10 feet away. 6 hours may seem like a long time, but we must set aside at least 2 hours to communicate and get used to each other so that we can take more effective measures against the unknown dangers after we enter the channel formation. The multicolored Tiger Clan's clan leader looked rough, but his words were reasonable. Everyone present was shocked, but they also had no choice but to believe him. "So, if that North Sea Water Sword Immortal still doesn't come, we might have to give up on this person and first discuss the matters of cooperation after we enter the channel formation." The multicolored Tiger Clan's clan leader's last sentence made everyone somewhat speechless. After a moment of silence, the true spirits present heard Laozu chuckle and say, "Clan leader Tiger's words are quite reasonable. However, isn't there still less than an hour? Let's wait a little longer." The Tiger Clan's clan leader only made a sound of acknowledgement, and did not say anything else. However, since he had already explained his reasoning, everyone knew that the multicolored Tiger Clan's clan leader had already set the final time limit, and it was in a manner that no one could object to. Right at this moment, Ancestor Long Huai, who'd been the first to arrive here and hadn't spoken since the beginning, suddenly opened his eyes, and a strand of awe-inspiring imposing aura flashed through the icy gorge along with his gaze. Everyone fell silent, and then they heard Ancestor Long Huai say, "Young brother Lu, you're late." Everyone in the ice call was shocked. More than 10 unparalleled divine senses swept across a radius of several hundred miles in an instant, but they found nothing. However, not only did the crowd not look at each other, believing that the Long Huai ancestor was deliberately mystifying things, but they looked at the Long Huai ancestor with even more fear. A clear laugh suddenly sounded around the ice kernel. "There are many things to do in the sect. After all, the Jinling clan is a newly established sect, and its foundation is shallow. This junior had to give a few words of advice, so I came a little late. Seniors, please forgive me." At this point, the voice paused and said, "Fortunately, this junior has finally arrived within the time limit set by the Tiger Clan leader. I believe the Tiger Clan leader will not blame me." When this clear and bright voice sounded out, it wasn't just the Tiger Clan's patriarch who turned pale with astonishment. The others were extremely shocked as well. Even Patriarch Long Huai, who was as calm as an ancient well, revealed a surprised expression. At this moment, Xiang Laozu of the Ba Gui clan's expression changed as if he had caught something. He also smiled and said, "It really is the North Sea Lu Daoyu, the North Sea Water Sword Celestial. You really live up to your reputation." There was still no trace of Lu Ping in the ice call, but Lu Ping's clear voice still lingered in the ears of the cultivators present. He said, "Is this the Ba Gui clan senior? Please forgive this junior for being too far away and not being able to greet you." Xiang Laozu smiled and raised his voice. "It's fine." As soon as Xiang Laozu finished speaking, he saw an old man in luxurious clothes suddenly snort. "The old turtle is used to showing off." Xiang Laozu's expression changed. He was about to speak, but the old man did not give him a chance to interrupt. He continued, "Lu Xiaoyu, do you still remember the old man?" Lu Ping's voice became clearer in the ice kernel. He smiled and said, "Are you Senior Yang?" The luxurious Laozu stroked his beard with satisfaction and said, "Yes, it is the old man. This time, I came to the North Sea because the old man's useless little brother asked the old man to greet you." Lu Ping repeatedly said he did not dare to. The two beastkin true spirits had used the void sound transmission technique to reply to Lu Ping, which obviously stimulated the true spirit cultivators of the human clan. A skinny old cultivator in a green robe seemed to have sensed Lu Ping's presence in the air. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly felt a dense sword intent rushing into his mouth. The green-robed old man obviously did not expect that someone would sneak attack him at this time, but he was an old true spirit cultivator after all. Even in this situation, he was still able to react in time. He stood in the ice and did not move. He suddenly spat out a stream of air from his mouth and collided with the sword intent that was coming at him. Both of them disappeared. However, at this moment, Xiao Baiyu, who was standing opposite him, said loudly, "I haven't seen you for hundreds of years. I didn't expect Brother Lu's achievements to be so high. I admire you, humph!" Just as Xiao Baiyu said the last word, convinced, he heard a cold snort from the green-robed cultivator. The air trembled, and the last word from Xiao Baiyu's mouth was drowned out by the void. "Senior Xiao is too polite." Lu Ping first responded to Xiao Baiyu, and then said, "How has Senior Green Sword been all these years?" The green-robed old man was actually the true spirit cultivator of the Ziyang Palace, Green Sword Laozu. It was no wonder that Xiao Baiyu would take the initiative to provoke him. Green Sword Laozu looked deeply at Xiao Baiyu, who was also smiling at him. A smile suddenly flashed across his face, and he said, "Thank you for your concern, Lu Xiaoyu. The old man has been very good these years." If it was said that the various true spirit cultivators in the ice call were able to discover where Lu Ping was, this was a competition of the various true spirit cultivators' divine sense covering their cultivation. This could only be considered a side effect of a cultivator's strength. Then this ability to directly transmit his voice into everyone's ears through space was the true embodiment of the true spirit cultivator's own strength. Therefore, after Long Huai ancestor discovered that Lu Ping was heading towards the northern ice plains and spoke first, until Lu Ping and Green Sword Laozu's conversation ended. In a short period of time, Lu Ping had consecutively answered 5 true spirit cultivators, but it had become a method for the many true spirit cultivators present to compete with each other, to display and measure their own strength. For Long Hua ancestor to be the first to discover Lu Ping's arrival and use a void sound transmission technique to reply to Lu Ping, this was undoubtedly an announcement that the current Long Hua ancestor was still the strongest out of all the true spirit cultivator present. Although this made everyone feel fear in their hearts, everyone present had some guesses about Long Hua ancestor's identity. Adding on the fact that the power of Long Hua ancestor 500 years ago was already deeply rooted in their hearts, the title of number 1 true spirit cultivator was not just for show. Therefore, although they were worried and unwilling to accept the strength that Long Hua ancestor had displayed, they could still accept it. Although Xiang Laozu, who was born after Long Hua ancestor, was ranked second, the time between him and Long Hua ancestor was the longest among the 5 true spirit cultivators that spoke in the ice kernel. This meant that although Laozu's strength was ranked second in this competition, the difference in strength between him and Long Hua ancestor was clearly greater than the difference between him and the 3 true spirit cultivators that were following closely behind. Of course, this ranking was only suitable for the 5 people who spoke. Although most of the other true spirit cultivators that did not speak were unable to discover Lu Ping's tracks before the 5 of them due to their strength, it did not mean that no one was intentionally hiding their strength. At the very least, when Lu Ping was talking to the Peacock King of the Peacock race, he had already sensed an unfamiliar divine sense sweep past him, and when he was talking to the Peacock King, another divine sense swept past him, but this divine sense was extremely familiar to Lu Ping. It was the wise giant ape Laozu. Chapter 1538. An unfamiliar divine sense made Lu Ping bewildered, but his divine sense had already locked onto the location of the true spirit cultivators in the ice kernel. Without waiting for the divine sense to retreat, Lu Ping's boundless divine sense had already returned in the direction of the strange divine sense like a tide, instantly locking onto the unfamiliar cultivator who had used his divine sense to search for him. Cold, lonely, but with a trace of heart-palpitating, bloody killing intent. Lu Ping's eyes couldn't help but narrow. This person was a female cultivator. Just as Lu Ping was about to withdraw his divine sense after confirming the source of the strange divine sense, the true spirit female cultivator who had been confirmed by Lu Ping finally sensed something. She suddenly raised her head and looked in Lu Ping's direction. The veil on her face could not hide the trace of a smile at the corner of her eyes. The moment the female cultivator sensed Lu Ping's divine sense, she had already guessed the reason. Lu Ping seemed to see a pair of eyes looking at him through the void. Lu Ping slightly nodded at the other party. The female cultivator seemed to have sensed it as she slightly bowed in Lu Ping's direction. The strange behavior of the female cultivator naturally did not escape the attention of the true spirit cultivators in the ice kernel. Furthermore, they were all the top elites of this world, so when they saw the female cultivator's behavior, they would naturally think that this bow was most likely a communication with Lu Ping, who had yet to show himself. And at this time, Xiao Baiyu's sound transmission had just been interrupted by the Peacock King's cold snort, which meant that the female cultivator in the ice call had at least discovered traces of Xiao Baiyu and Lu Ping before Lu Ping could communicate. This kind of strength, the true spirit cultivators in the ice call all had different expressions. Some were fearful of this unfamiliar female cultivator, some were friendly, some were expressionless, and some were shocked. This was especially so for the Tenma people leader Ma Jin and the multicolored tiger clan leader who had clearly shown hostility towards Lu Ping. Not long after Lu Ping and Green Sword Laozu had greeted each other, the multicolored tiger clan leader had sensed something strange a few hundred kilometers away with his divine sense. Meanwhile, the Tenma people leader and the other true spirit cultivators had not sensed any traces of Lu Ping. Thinking about how the two of them had criticized Lu Ping for being late, the Tenma people leader lost a bit of confidence, and his expression became very ugly. Although the multicolored tiger clan leader seemed to be able to keep his composure, When he faintly sensed traces of Lu Ping, he suddenly revealed an expression of relief that showed his lack of confidence. The multicolored tiger clan leader quickly withdrew the relaxed expression on his face and turned to look at the Tenma people leader, who was clearly still searching for Lu Ping while looking more and more guilty. His gaze wandered as if he was thinking about something. The multicolored tiger clan leader and the Tenma people leader could be said to be the two most dazzling figures in the Western wilderness cultivation world in the past thousands of years. The two of them led their respective clans to rise, and under their combined efforts, they almost changed the entire western wilderness, a third of the northern ice plains, and the northwest border of the central plains. From the multicolored tiger clan leader's point of view, this ally of the Tenma people had enough schemes and intelligence. Otherwise, he would not have been able to raise the weakest of the three goblin clans in the western wilderness cultivation world, the Tenma people, to the number one power in the western wilderness, and established the eternal foundation for the Tenma people to become a giant tribe. However, this Tenma people leader's actions were lacking in grandeur and direct confrontation. This was despite the fact that this Tenma people leader was not weak. In reality, other than the few human clans who used external methods to take shortcuts to ascend to the true spirit in order to maintain the so-called dignity of the Holy Land, none of the cultivators who could ascend to the true spirit on their own without the help of external forces were weak. However, he was also used to using various methods to calculate things, which always made others look down on him. He even always viewed himself as a weakling when dealing with everything that happened around him. Therefore, if everything was within his expectations, he would always appear to have planned everything perfectly, which was admirable. However, once things went out of his control and exceeded his expectations, then his response would always appear to be slightly panicked, and even timid. At this time, Lu Ping's sudden appearance and display of power that far exceeded his expectations caused the Tenma people to completely lose the courage to resist. At the very least, before he recovered from this blow, the multicolored tiger clan leader no longer had any hope of borrowing his power. The multicolored tiger clan leader had seen this situation several times before. The first time was when the Tenma people worked together with the green-eyed golden condor clan to plot against the hanging eyes white-fronted tiger clan. At that time, the Mara disaster suddenly broke out. While the Tenma people's plan was in chaos and they could not adjust in time, the multicolored tiger clan took advantage of the situation and intervened. They expanded their forces to the western wilderness and swallowed half of the fruits of victory that originally belonged to the Tenma people. Not only could the Tenma people swallow their anger, they even had to thank the multicolored tiger clan for helping them. The second time was when the Longhuai ancestor appeared and exposed the deception of the Great Passage Formation, as well as the strength he displayed in the Battle of Shang Mountain that made all the true spirit cultivators feel ashamed of their inferiority. When the Tenma people's people were in a state of panic, instead of holding down the fort and stabilizing the hearts of the Tenma people, he actually hurriedly passed the position of the Tenma people's clan leader to his own son. He then became a hands-off boss and came to discuss with the multicolored tiger clan about how to deal with the situation. Immediately, the Purple Sun Palace seized the opportunity and seized the Tenma people's 1,000-mile territory in the western wilderness. The third time was when he was criticizing Lu Taiping. He was once again at a loss for what to do when he suddenly appeared and displayed the absolute strength Lu Taiping displayed. He did not know if it would be a good or bad thing to work together with this person in the Great Passage Formation. Originally, the multicolored tiger clan leader had cultivated for 500 years and thought that even if his strength could not compare to the Longhuai ancestor in the Battle of Shang Mountain, he was not far off. In this trip to the northern ice plains, he had the help of the Tenma people. If they worked together, they might even be a bit tougher than Longhuai. However, this confidence was suddenly shattered when the true spirit cultivators suddenly used Lu Ping's appearance as a platform to compete. It was fine if the Longhuai ancestor's strength was far above his, but then Xiang Laozu, the Peacock King, Xiao Baiyu, Lu Jian Laozu, the veiled female cultivator, and the great spiritual ape attacked one after another. This clearly told the multicolored tiger clan leader that their strength might only be slightly above his, but this slight difference still surpassed him. However, this was not what terrified the multicolored tiger clan leader the most. What truly terrified him was Lu Taiping, who was about to arrive at the ice kernel. After all, even the Longhui ancestor had only discovered traces of Lu Ping after the multicolored tiger clan leader had helped the Tenma people criticize Lu Ping. However, Lu Ping's reply had been accompanied by the multicolored tiger clan leader's retaliation against him. What did this mean? It meant that Lu Taiping had already discovered everyone in the ice call before the Longhui ancestor had discovered him. He had also heard the multicolored tiger clan leader's criticism through a void secret technique without anyone knowing. Could it be that Lu Taiping's cultivation had surpassed the Longhui ancestors? The multicolored tiger clan leader immediately wanted to dispel this thought, but the more he wanted to do so, the more this thought entangled in his mind. How was this possible? This was impossible. He had long heard that this North Sea Water Sword Immortal's talent in soul sense cultivation was extraordinary, far surpassing cultivators of the same level. Perhaps this was the reason. The multicolored tiger clan leader tried his best to find all sorts of reasons, but even so, the foundation of soul sense cultivation was still cultivation. No matter how strong his soul sense talent was, the difference in strength would not be that great. At least, the multicolored tiger clan leader could not see the possibility of his strength being comparable to Lu Taiping's. Chapter 1539. The confrontation between the true spirit cultivator and Lu Ping in the ice call did not only disturb the multicolored tiger race, but also the other true spirit cultivators that did not participate. Everyone was testing their own strength through the battles between the true spirit cultivator and Lu Ping, but it was clear that there were not many who had a calm expression on their faces. At this time, Lu Ping also secretly sighed. From the competition between Lu Ping and the few true spirit cultivators before, Lu Ping could clearly feel that the strength of the demon clan S was clearly higher than that of the human clan S. Putting aside the Longhui ancestor, who was born as a spirit demon but whose identity was a mystery, when the multicolored tiger race discovered Lu Ping had come into contact with a total of 7 true spirit cultivators' divine sense. Among them, 5 were demon clan cultivators, and the female cultivator whose identity was unknown to Lu Ping was also undoubtedly a demon cultivator. The remaining 2 were Xiao Baiyu and Lao Zu, and their strengths were only below average among the 7. At Lu Ping's level, Lu Ping understood this huge difference in just a moment. Other than the 5 elements hidden tortoise race and the Tenma people's newly controlled sacred lake realm, when compared to the various sects of the demon clan, in terms of the number of true spirit cultivators that had appeared since the opening of the heavens, there was no doubt that the human clan had greatly surpassed the demon clan. The reason was very simple. The human clan cultivators had the inheritance of the 6 great sacred grounds, and the true spirit cultivators had never stopped. However, if one were to look at the overall strength of the true spirit cultivator since the opening of the heavens, then without a doubt, the strength of the demon clan cultivators far surpassed that of the human clan cultivators. The reason was also very simple, because the human clan cultivators had some shortcuts in the inheritance of the Holy Land, and at the same time, these methods allowed the number of human clan true spirit cultivators to greatly surpass that of the demon clan cultivators. It also caused the human clan true spirit cultivators, especially those who were preparing to become true spirit cultivators in the Holy Land, to reduce the difficulty of becoming true spirit cultivators, to sacrifice a portion of their strength after becoming true spirit cultivators. The existence of these shortcuts had further increased the laziness of the pure yang cultivators in the Holy Land. At the last moment of becoming a true spirit, they had placed most of their energy on fighting for the true spirit inheritance, and neglected the possibility of relying on their own strength to become a true spirit. At this time, in Lu Ping's view, except for Xiao Baiyu, ancestor Lu Jian and himself, the rest of the human clan cultivators more or less did not rely on their own strength to advance to the true spirit realm. It was just that the external forces they relied on varied. There were also demonic cultivators who relied on external forces to become true spirits. However, compared to humans, demonic cultivators mostly followed the law of the jungle, where the strong preyed on the weak. It was not that they could not establish true spirit legacies, but that they disdained to do so. Compared to humans, those large demonic tribes were usually the direct bloodline successors of the 7 heaven-splitting ancestors. Due to the existence of their inherited memories, they would never consider the problem of their legacies being severed unless the entire race was annihilated. The ripples caused by Lu Ping's arrival only spread ceaselessly in the hearts of the numerous true spirit cultivators present here, but all the true spirit cultivators were chatting happily with each other. After they exchanged greetings with each other, all of them shot their gazes towards old ancestor Long Huai, the one who'd initiated the 500-year agreement. Although the Long Huai ancestor had used a series of events to force all the peak cultivators in the cultivation world to agree with his guesses, how many secrets did the Long Huai ancestor hide? What was his background? Did he have any direct connection with the legendary 7th patriarch, and so on? The Long Huai ancestor's body was shrouded in too many mysterious halos and questions. Previously, because the true spirit cultivators of the various sects and tribes had no choice but to be trapped in their respective small 1,000 worlds and various seals, they were unable to communicate directly. Now that there were only a few hours left, if the Long Huai ancestor could not give everyone a reasonable explanation, it would be difficult for everyone to cooperate wholeheartedly after entering the passage formation. Seeing that most of the people had arrived, the Long Huai ancestor slowly said, "The old man knows what everyone is thinking. The old man's identity is indeed as everyone has guessed. He was originally a trump card left behind by Jiao Daoren to prevent himself from falling, an identity incarnation." Although the cultivators present had many guesses about the identity of the Long Huai ancestor, and most of them thought that he had some unknown connection with Jiao Daoren, when the Long Huai ancestor truly admitted it, it still shocked everyone. The Peacock King was the first to say in surprise, "Sir, could it be?" The Long Huai ancestor smiled and waved his hand, saying, "Sir, please don't misunderstand. The old man is not an incarnation of Jiao Daoren, but he has regained his own intelligence. Long Huai is Long Huai. Although the old man's identity originated from Jiao Daoren, the old man is a genuine spirit demon. At most, he has only received some of the inherited memories that Jiao Daoren left for the old man. These things were originally left for Jiao Daoren's remnant soul, but now they have benefited the old man." An undetectable expression flashed across Xiang Laozu's face, then he said, "In that case, Senior should have inherited Jiao Daoren's memories and know many secrets of opening the heavens?" The Long Huai ancestor glanced at Xiang Laozu inexplicably and said indifferently, "That is not the case. The old man's intelligence is self-born. Although he has inherited some of the memories that Jiao Daoren left for this incarnation, he is not Jiao Daoren after all. Therefore, too many of the things that Jiao Daoren left behind have been lost." Xiang Laozu's expression did not change, only his eyes were wandering. No one knew what he was thinking. The Long Huai ancestor continued, "The old man told you all these things to prove one thing. That is, the original body of the old man was originally a backup plan that Jiao Daoren left behind. If it was not for the destruction of Jiao Daoren's soul, as long as there was a trace of consciousness that returned, the old man would not be able to awaken his own intelligence and become a spirit demon." Lu Jian Laozu's face was filled with shock. "Senior, you mean. The Long Huai ancestor looked at Lu Jian Laozu and could not say the words that were at the tip of his tongue. So he nodded and said, "Fellow Taoist is right, Jiao Daoren has died, his soul has been destroyed. Even though everyone present was a top figure in this world, and they'd walked on the brink of death and experienced countless storms and waves. But at the instant they heard the news from Patriarch Long Huai, they were still shocked into silence, and only the wind and snow that covered the sky outside the icy call emitted sorrowful wails that sounded like the howls of ghosts and howls of wolves. After a long time, it was Xiao Baiyu who said bitterly, 'Senior, do you know why Jiao Daoren died, whether the other sky splitters Laozu are still alive, And what is the connection between Jiao Doran's death and this passage formation? Everyone returned to their senses after they advanced, and they shot their gazes towards Ancestor Long Huai once more. However, even though Ancestor Long Huai's bitter smile didn't exceed their expectations, they still felt slightly regretful in their hearts. But when they thought about their trip to the passageway this time, their hearts couldn't help but feel heavy. The part of the memories left behind by Jiao Daoran that the old man received was before he entered the passage formation and left this world, and there is nothing after they entered the passage formation. Even some scattered memories do not exist. Or perhaps there were some speculations, but the old man dispersed these inheritances when his intelligence was born. However, according to some of the other memory fragments that the old man inherited, they seemed to have a reason to enter the passage formation, and the old man guessed that they were probably looking for something. Xiang Laozu's gaze flickered while Lu Ping frowned slightly, and he thought of the handwriting that Jiao Daoran had left on the Luan Taoist's handkerchief. The Battle of the North Sea is related to the innate. What exactly is innate? Is it what the 7 heaven-splitting patriarchs are searching for according to Long Huai? Chapter 1540. Long Huai ancestor said a lot of interesting things about the 7th patriarch that he had inherited. These things could be said to be the secrets of opening the heavens, even including some of Jiao Doran's descriptions of the other heavens-splitting Laozu's, their evaluations and so on. Not only Lu Ping, even the other true spirit cultivator had different expressions when they heard this. It could be seen that these secrets had brought quite a few surprises to everyone. However, these secrets could cause a huge storm in the cultivation world, but there were very few that actually involved the passage formation. Lu Ping did not know how many things Long Huai ancestor was hiding, but he knew that Long Huai ancestor also had his own secrets. Moreover, Lu Ping believed that all the true spirit cultivator present had the same suspicions as him. Even Long Huai ancestor himself knew that no one would completely believe him. But so what? As long as everyone entered the passage formation together, it would be enough. At that time, in order to break through the restrictions placed on them and pursue the longevity that all cultivators yearned for, they would have no choice but to stand on his side. This is the entrance to the passage formation, the door to leave this world, Long Huai ancestor said with a smile. Every true spirit cultivator can find the only crack in this world through the mysterious connection to the boundless starry sky. The straight ice cliff was 1,000 feet high. Even these true spirit cultivator who were confident that their hearts were the same as the heavens in this world, could clearly feel how small they were when they stood under the ice cliff. Senior has been here before? 7 Fan Laozu asked in shock. How is this possible? Long Huai ancestor laughed involuntarily. It's just a bit of memory that I inherited from Jiao Daoran. Actually, any true spirit cultivator that comes to the northern ice plains will find this place. The moment the true spirit cultivators saw the ice wall, they began to use various eye techniques, as if they could see through the truth behind the ice wall. Lu Ping's heart moved, the purple gold light in his eyes suddenly shot out 3 feet, attracting many true spirit cultivators to look at him. However, the current Lu Ping no longer needed to hide his own strength, allowing the other true spirit cultivator to guess at Lu Ping's mysterious eye technique. It was not that no one in the true spirit cultivator had cultivated the 3 pure true eyes, but after Lu Ping's 3 pure true eyes had been cultivated to perfection, and because he had fused with the Blood Eagle clan's bloodline, his eye technique had improved a step. After becoming a true spirit, Lu Ping's eye technique could even see through the void. Although Lu Ping himself wasn't proficient in array formations, with his eye technique, he could easily see through most of the array formations in this world and break them with ease. However, when Lu Ping looked at the ice wall, his gaze seemed to be blocked by something he couldn't see. This thing was very familiar to Lu Ping. It was the spatial barrier of this world. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat and his eyes blinked. Although he still couldn't break through the spatial barrier, he could vaguely see something familiar behind the spatial barrier. Lu Ping slightly frowned. At this time, the few true spirit cultivators who had used their eye technique all dispersed the light in their eyes. Seeing that Lu Ping's eyes were still flickering with light, they all looked at him. Lu Xiaoyu, did you find something? The Green Sea Snake's patriarch Chu Fanyan asked. Lu Ping withdrew the light in his eyes and shook his head. I couldn't see it clearly. Everyone thought that Lu Ping was just trying to look good and didn't see anything. They thought that this North Sea Water Sword immortal was too young. Although he had cultivation and strength, this young man's desire to win did not decrease. The Tenma people patriarch even sneered with ridicule. Even Chu Fanyan thought so. He shook his head and didn't ask Lu Ping anymore. There is something this junior doesn't understand. Seeing everyone look at him, Lu Ping frowned and asked. Since this world will instinctively reject true spirit cultivators, it clearly doesn't want true spirit cultivators to stay here. Then why is there only a single crack left in the North Ice Plains? In fact, after we become true spirits, we can clearly sense that the abilities we control should be able to easily tear through the space of this world, and we can even travel through space extremely quickly for a long distance. Seeing everyone nod their heads in agreement, it was clear that everyone could feel this after becoming true spirits. Lu Ping finally asked, Then why can't we just tear through space and leave this world? The Tenma people patriarch said in a cold voice. What is there to be unclear about? I'm afraid everyone here has thought of this before. The old man doesn't believe that you can't feel the warning from this world when you use spatial techniques as a true spirit cultivator. I'm afraid that once you do this, there will be endless heavenly punishment descending. At that time, there will only be death. Xiang Laozu also said. The old man has lived for a long time. Among everyone here, he's probably second only to Mr. Long Huai. In reality, it's not like no one in the cultivation world has ever done this before, but when they tried to tear through space, the heavenly punishment had already turned them into ashes. The Tenma people patriarch mocked. Lu Daoyu is the youngest, it's understandable that he doesn't know this. Lu Ping didn't care about the Tenma people patriarch's mockery. Instead, he turned to the Longhuai ancestor and said, What this junior really wants to ask is what this junior has said the way this world is, or is it deliberately done by someone? The Green Sea Snake's patriarch Chu Fanyan glanced at the Longhuai ancestor and said, Little friend, are you saying that all of this is deliberately done by someone? Lu Ping looked at the Longhuai ancestor and said, What does senior think? Ancestor Longhuai faced the smooth ice wall, and he went silent for a long time under the gazes of everyone before he said, You're right. The spatial walls of this world were originally unable to obstruct true spirit realm cultivators at all, and they're able to break open space and leave this world at any time. Presently, this world has indeed been confined by a formation set up by the seventh ancestor of creation with great divine abilities, causing true spirit realm cultivators to suffer the punishment of the heavens if they try to break open the spatial walls. So only this passageway in the northern ice plains remains, and it's even surrounded by layers of formations. Why? Why would the heaven-splitting seventh patriarch do this? A human true spirit cultivator couldn't help asking. In order to protect this world, the Longhuai ancestor calmly said. When the heaven-splitting seventh patriarch discovered this world in the boundless starry sky, this world had just formed and could be destroyed at any time. In order to prevent the experts in the starry sky from discovering and protecting this world's growth, the heaven-splitting seventh patriarch could only place a large array to hide this newly born world. But this way, because of the large array, true spirit cultivators can't directly break through the spatial barrier of this world. Luckily, the seventh patriarch left a passage in the northern ice plains, so true spirit cultivators can leave this world through the large array. They can continue to pursue the path of longevity and the path of experts in the boundless starry sky. Even though Ancestor Longhuai's explanation was reasonable, how could all the true spirits present here be unable to discern the meaning behind this reason? It was very obvious that the seventh heaven-splitting ancestor had noticed this world as soon as it was born. Moreover, due to some unknown reason, the seventh heaven-splitting ancestor was obviously unwilling to allow the other experts in the boundless starry sky to notice the existence of this newborn world, so he'd set up a grand formation to completely conceal this world. As for what the heaven-splitting seventh patriarch was planning, this was probably the reason why the heaven-splitting seventh patriarch never returned to this world after leaving the large array. Ancestor Long Huai laughed bitterly. Everything I said was obtained from those scattered inherited memories. As for whether you believe me or not, it'll depend on everyone's judgment. I've practically told all of you everything I know. If there's no other questions, then we'll enter the passageway grand formation according to the method we discussed earlier. If we succeed, then we'll be able to completely escape the barriers of this world, and our path to immortality will be within reach. If we fail, then I presume this world will never be able to gather the strength we have today, and this world will become a pool of stagnant water. Seeing that everyone was silent, the Long Huai ancestor smiled and said, "If that's the case, the old man will be the first to enter." After saying that, he took the first step towards the ice wall. Just as the Long Huai ancestor was about to hit the ice wall, Lu Ping's eyes moved. He saw Lao Tzu suddenly stride forward, and the moment he hit the ice wall, he walked side by side with the Long Huai ancestor, and the two of them entered the ice wall together. Following closely behind Xiang Laozu was the female practitioner that Lu Ping suspected to be a bug-race celestial adept. This person obviously had the same idea as Xiang Laozu, but in the end she was slower than the two of them in entering the array. The movements of Xiang Laozu and the celestial adept immediately attracted the attention of everyone present. Lu Ping thought for a while and understood what Xiang Laozu and the female practitioner were thinking. Even though Lu Ping felt that the two of them were being overly suspicious, he was still cautious, and so he immediately walked towards the ice wall. Green Sword Laozu and Xiao Baiyu followed along with Lu Ping. If this ice wall was touched by a practitioner who was below the level of the true spirit, it would be a real wall of ice. The coldness of the ice wall could even cause frostbite to adepts below the Dharma stage, and even Dharma adepts would not be able to break this ice wall to see what was behind it. When the true spirit adept walked forward, it became a camouflage. The moment Lu Ping hit the ice wall, his entire body disappeared. Just as Lu Ping entered the passage array, thinking back to what he had seen with the purple gold pupil technique, a layer of inconspicuous purple gold light suddenly appeared around Lu Ping's body. Whoosh! 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 Before Lu Ping's eyes could clearly see what was happening in the passage array, he could already feel the thick qi of heaven and earth surrounding his body. This was, before he could feel the joy in his heart, a sense of danger had already struck him at lightning speed. Chapter 1541. This kind of sudden attack was very familiar to Lu Ping, but the danger hidden in it was so fierce that Lu Ping had never seen it before. Fortunately, Lu Ping was already prepared, and the purple gold light around his body suddenly spread out. At the same time, Lu Ping's divine sense surged towards the direction of the danger like a storm. Under the full force of Lu Ping's divine sense, even the void trembled under Lu Ping's divine sense. Circle after circle of light appeared in the surroundings, but it was the spirit patterns that formed the formation that were stimulated by his divine sense. The originally hidden space of the formation was immediately exposed to Lu Ping. At this time, the space that even Lu Ping could not see clearly was suddenly seen through by Lu Ping. The pitch-black darkness that covered Lu Ping's vision was a thick black fog, and this black fog was the soul-devouring fog that Lu Ping was very familiar with. It really was a devil cultivator. If that was the case, then what he had seen through the ice wall was most likely true. Lu Ping was shocked, and wanted to withdraw his divine sense and change it to another way to deal with the enemy, but it was too late. The soul-devouring divine sense that gave Lu Ping the greatest danger was a tyrannical soul-devouring divine sense that Lu Ping had never seen before, which could restrain a cultivator's divine sense. Although Lu Ping was very confident in the cultivation of his divine sense, this confrontation between the two sides was bound to injure Lu Ping. Sure enough, Lu Ping's divine sense relied on his extremely powerful divine sense to shake off the soul-devouring divine sense that attacked him in one fell swoop, and Lu Ping also felt as if his head had been hit by a heavy blow. His whole body became dizzy, as if there were 1,000 gongs and drums beating fiercely in his ears, and even his divine sense was damaged, causing Lu Ping's face to become as pale as paper for a moment. This was definitely the best time to seriously injure Lu Ping, but the opponent who had his soul-devouring divine sense forcibly shattered by Lu Ping's divine sense was clearly not having it easy. Just as Lu Ping fell into a daze, a series of miserable howls rang out from the thick soul-devouring black fog, and then the black fog that filled the entire formation space that Lu Ping was in suddenly began to shake violently. Then, 3 vortexes appeared in the depths of the black fog, and the thick fog immediately began to thin. Although Lu Ping's head was dizzy from the sneak attack, there was immediately a natal water chi in his body. Although the natal water chi that relied on the triple light sacred water could not completely repair Lu Ping's damaged divine sense, it could allow Lu Ping to regain his consciousness and wake up from the confrontation of divine sense. However, when Lu Ping woke up and saw the scene in front of him, his expression became even uglier. There were no other cultivators around Lu Ping who had entered the passage formation, and he did not know whether this passage formation was originally meant to separate the true spirit cultivators who had entered at the same time, or whether there were other people who had interfered. However, the 3 demonic cultivators in front of him were not existences like sky demons. To be able to use the soul-devouring divine sense to force Lu Ping, who had become a true spirit cultivator, into this state, the aura around the 3 demonic cultivators all showed their cultivation. These were 3 demonic cultivators who had pushed their cultivation to the true spirit level. These were 3 true demons that Lu Ping had never seen before, and they had never appeared since the world was opened. At this moment, these 3 true demons that had their soul-devouring divine sense shattered by Lu Ping's divine sense were absorbing the thick soul-devouring black mist that filled the passage space, clearly resisting the damage from the backlash. At this moment, Lu Ping did not have the time to think about the reason for all of this. The moment Lu Ping stepped into the ice wall, the 2 sides had already become irreconcilable enemies. As Lu Ping waved his hand, a huge purple-gold sword pierced through the array space, and an unparalleled sword chi instantly went straight for the 3 true demons. This sword chi was accompanied by heavenly thunder, and there was even the aura of heavenly punishment in between the sword chi. In the face of this righteous sword technique, the soul-devouring black mist melted like snow under the scorching sun. Facing this sword chi, the true demons that were facing this sword chi were already so frightened that they howled and retreated before the sword chi reached their bodies. They threw out all kinds of divine sense randomly, just to wear down this divine sense that terrified them from the bottom of their hearts. The thunderclap sword technique was the supreme divine sense that was derived by Lu Ping into the thunderclap sword technique. It used the thunder origin that Lu Ping comprehended from the 7 treasures thunder calabash as its foundation, and combined with the aura of the thunder tribulation, especially after observing the Longhuai ancestors' heavenly punishment. This set of divine sense made this divine sense the most violent and the most powerful among Lu Ping's natal divine sense. The second sword chi stirred up the power of heaven and earth. As if the gate of heaven had opened, a vast heavenly might descended, and a sword river descended to receive it, as if entering the gate of heaven would allow one to enjoy immortality and be immortal. The true demon on the right let out a shrill cry, and the soul-devouring black mist suddenly condensed around its body. Then, a profound bead slowly rose from it, and cut through the void in midair, leaving behind a trail of black mist, and collided with the gate of heaven in midair. However, the sword river that was descending was like streaks of sword chi that reached the gate of heaven with a vast heavenly might, and formed a sword formation that wanted to eliminate all evil in this world. Before the soul-devouring black mist companion treasure could reach the gate of heaven, its path of retreat was cut off by the sword chi that rose into the sky. Then, the gate of heaven that was opened in midair suddenly turned into a strict sword formation, surrounding the profound bead. Tens of thousands of sword chi were worn down within it, and the profound bead charged left and right, but it was unable to escape. Only the true demon repeatedly attacked outside the sword formation, but it was unable to retrieve the soul-devouring treasure. The Gate of Heaven sword formation. Lu Ping had always believed that this supreme sword technique divine ability was the greatest gift that Jiao Daoren had left for the Koi clan. It was the genuine heaven-splitting sword technique divine ability, and after fusing with the true spirit cultivator's spatial divine ability, this sword technique truly displayed a power that far exceeded Lu Ping's expectations. It was Lu Ping's innate divine ability that was the most capable of resonating with the heaven and earth, and borrowing the might of the heaven and earth. The third sword intent rose up and charged straight at the true demon in the middle. This true demon was the most tyrannical in Lu Ping's perception, and at the same time, it was the strangest one. As a result, Lu Ping's third sword intent appeared the most ordinary. It did not have the explosive might of the thunderclap sword technique, nor did it have the awe-inspiring might of the Gate of Heaven sword technique. The entire sword intent was filled with a thick sense of deathly stillness. Heaven-splitting three-word sword technique: battle, kill, die. This sword had the word die in it. Once this sword was unleashed, it would be a battle of life and death. The deathly stillness of the sword intent pierced through the thick soul-devouring black fog, and the black fog fused into the sword intent, causing the sword intent to be even more deathly. If a cultivator with insufficient strength took a look at it, their vitality would be drained away. The true demon in the middle had clearly instinctively felt the danger of this sword. As it screamed in fear, it did not even have the courage to fight. It turned around and wanted to escape. However, when this strange sword technique was unleashed, how could it escape so easily? Before the deathly stillness of the sword chi reached its body, the soul-devouring black fog around the true demon became thinner and thinner. The more it ran, the more it felt like its vitality was being drained away, and the more it ran, the slower it became. Even its cultivation began to waver, as if it was about to fall from the true spirit realm. However, the true demon began to escape the moment it felt fear in its heart. Even though its cultivation and vitality were being cut again and again by the strange sword chi, and even fell from the true spirit realm at the last moment, it still disappeared before the sword chi reached its body. At this moment, Lu Ping finally saw the huge altar behind the true demon that was shrouded in the soul-devouring black fog. Chapter 1542. One of the true demons that besieged Lu Ping was able to escape from the altar under Lu Ping's heaven-opening sword intent, but before he left, his cultivation had already been cut from the true spirit realm to the sky demon realm by the death aura condensed in the sword intent. The three true spirit realm true demons had joined hands to launch a sneak attack, but Lu Ping had turned the situation around in the blink of an eye. The remaining two true demons were also completely suppressed by the sword force of the true spirit sword. Seeing that things were not going well, they immediately had the thought of escaping. At this time, Lu Ping's attention was already attracted by the altar in front of him. Before entering the ice wall, Lu Ping had used his own eye technique to vaguely see the outline of the altar through the protective wall of the passage array. However, at that time, Lu Ping had not only seen an altar. Although Lu Ping could not be sure that it was the altar that the Yuan family had used to condense its origin to summon Mara, in front of the ice wall, Lu Ping had seen at least 18 altars. This time, the human and demon clan cultivators had joined hands to enter the passage array. There were a total of 18 true spirit cultivators, 8 from the demon clan, 10 from the human clan, and there were also 18 altars. Could this be a coincidence? This thought flashed through Lu Ping's mind, but Lu Ping's hands did not slow down at all. Seeing that the other two true demons were afraid of Lu Ping's tyrannical strength and were fleeing towards the altar, it was obvious that they wanted to escape. The true spirit sword had already turned into a monstrous sword wave in the air, drowning the altar. Seeing this, the two true demons were shocked. They originally wanted to stop Lu Ping from destroying the altar, but unexpectedly, the sword wave suddenly rotated, turning into a vortex, waiting for the two true demons to fall into it. The two true devils were shocked, and they hurriedly tried to retreat, only to hear a series of explosive sounds as the altar was crushed into a pile of rubble by Lu Ping's swordsmanship. The moment the altar was destroyed by Lu Ping, the spatial formation that had originally formed to trap Lu Ping suddenly collapsed. The two true devils no longer fled this time. Instead, they turned around and launched a desperate attack on Lu Ping. All kinds of divine abilities and spells instantly flooded the space around Lu Ping. However, Lu Ping now had enough space to maneuver. He no longer needed to clash head-on with the two true demons who had clearly gone mad. Instead, he needed to temporarily avoid the brunt of their attacks. However, the moment Lu Ping was about to dodge, he saw that after the space collapsed, it was connected to the other two array formations. One of the array formations was trapping none other than the chief of the Tenma people, Ma Jin. The chief of the Tenma people was originally in a very bad situation under the siege of the two true demons. He had been at a disadvantage, and he was being chased by the two true demons. However, at this moment, one side of the array formation trapping him suddenly collapsed. This made the chief of the Tenma people, who was about to be forced into a corner, overjoyed, and he fled in this direction without thinking. At this moment, Lu Ping had just dodged the crazy attacks of the two true demons and was about to use the sword of true spirit to weave a sword array to trap the two crazy true demons. However, he happened to see the chief of the Tenma people rushing towards him with the two true demons behind him. Their gazes met in an instant. Lu Ping clearly saw the malice in the eyes of the chief of the Tenma people, but the two true demons behind the chief of the Tenma people seemed to be able to sense the threat from Lu Ping. They actually abandoned the chief of the Tenma people and rushed towards Lu Ping. However, very soon, Lu Ping's attention was no longer on the malicious chief of the Tenma people and the two sky demons. Instead, he noticed that there was also a huge altar in the array formation space where the chief of the Tenma people was originally at. Seeing that he was about to be besieged by the four true demons, Lu Ping had no choice but to temporarily retreat and adopt a defensive stance. At the same time, Lu Ping took the opportunity to look at the other side of the space that had been broken through. Indeed, there was a huge altar standing in the other space. Ha ha! The chief of the Tenma people looked up to the sky and laughed. He did not suppress the gloating in his heart at all. However, the chief of the Tenma people soon discovered that on the other side of the array formation space where Lu Ping was at, there was also another array formation space that had been broken through. At this moment, a human true spirit cultivator was evenly matched with a true demon. The chief of the Tenma people's expression changed. No one knew what was going on in his mind. At this moment, he heard an angry roar. The chief of the Tenma people was startled. When he turned to look, his expression immediately changed. Although Lu Ping did not know why the two true demons who were originally chasing after the chief of the Tenma people had crossed the original spatial boundary and rushed towards him, Lu Ping could clearly sense the malice of the chief of the Tenma people. At this moment, even Lu Ping was not afraid to assume the worst and predict that the chief of the Tenma people would join forces with the four true demons to kill him. In fact, the chief of the Tenma people did have such a thought just now. However, he also knew the current situation. Without Lu Ping's help, he would never be able to stop the four true demons alone. Fortunately, at this moment, Lu Ping was besieged by the four true demons. His plan was nothing more than to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight while waiting for an opportunity to reap the benefits. It would be best if the four true demons and Lu Ping perished together. However, the human cultivator who was broken through in another space was also a problem. This matter could not be leaked out. Perhaps this human cultivator would also die. Seeing that this human cultivator could only fight to a draw with a true demon after going all out, he was probably not a match for the chief of the Tenma people. But when the chief of the Tenma people was still immersed in his beautiful fantasy, he suddenly heard a heart-palpitating sword whistle coming from the battle between Lu Ping and the four true demons. The chief of the Tenma people was shocked. When he turned to look, his eyes were filled with sword chi, and he could no longer see what was happening in the battle. The chief of the Tenma people instinctively felt that something was wrong. His eyes shone brightly, and at the same time, he spread out his divine sense to try to grasp the situation in front of him. However, he only felt a cold sword intent almost cutting his divine sense apart. He could only see a wall formed by sword light, and could not see what was happening in the battle at all. The chief of the Tenma people felt a chill in his heart. He did not know if he should join the battle at this moment. At this moment, he heard the miserable howl of a true demon coming from behind the wall of sword light. The chief of the Tenma people immediately thought of his dead son, and a ruthless look flashed across his face. He grasped in the air, and 2 spiritual treasures appeared in his hands. He had already appeared near the wall of sword light. With a loud sound of metal colliding, the wall of sword light was broken. The chief of the Tenma people rushed in and shouted, "Lu Daoyu, don't panic! The old man is coming!" Ah! The Heavenly Horse clan patriarch had only just charged into the wall of sword light when the broken wall suddenly closed up. His shout came to a halt, leaving behind a booming sound that rang out from behind the wall of sword light. The entire space there began shaking violently. The shockwaves even reached the space where the Heavenly Horse clan patriarch was in and the space where a human cultivator was fighting a true demon. The spatial barrier on the other side of the space where the Heavenly Horse clan patriarch was in and a human cultivator was fighting a true demon. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.